never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
What's pro football focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else. As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Do you not understand that they are that way because you're Joe Flacco?
And you just like to discredit things that people deserve credit for.
That you can't possibly be expected to defend that.
Talk about the game, Sam.
So,
who cares about what people think about us?
Yeah, I like football season, all the things that go with it.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson, previewing all the Week 4 NFL action. Ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
You want to use your word of the day that you were just looking up?
I wasn't looking it up. I got emailed for some reason a word of the day. I have never quite figured out why.
If you could just throw it into the somebody signed you up for it.
I don't remember signing up for such a thing. But the word of the day apparently is irrumpant.
If you're just listening here, sign Sam up for more words of the day here.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll get into all the Week 4 games. Don't forget all of our shows powered by PFF Elite. Really, where all the grades and stats come from. So go over to pff.com and you can join us. You can go through and see how everybody's graded, because that's what we do. Grade every player on every play. We did our Wednesday show yesterday, just us talking about everything for an hour. Surprises. So if you missed that, don't forget to check that out. So let's get into all the Week 4 games. It's Thursday morning right now. We're live on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Tonight, the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are favored by 7.
Yeah.
At home, right down the street here, at our home. So what are you looking for in this one? Obviously, some people will have already seen it when they listen to this.
True, though the people watching on YouTube won't. So they're good.
It's a rematch, by the way, of LSU Clemson with Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing to watch, right, is does Joe Burrow continue to look pretty good? Can the Bengals keep him as upright as they did last week, where Pittsburgh weren't really able to get much pressure? And as you said, a lot of that was because the ball was coming out of his hands quickly. And then the other side, can Trevor Lawrence, stop throwing the ball to defenders?
One of these weeks, he will, right? Some of the other reads, we had mentioned the two deep coverages and just kind of firing the ball through linebackers. But that flea flicker.
I was going to say, he threw a pick 6 on a flea flicker, right? I'm not imagining that.
No, he did.
Has that ever happened before? I mean, I've seen interceptions.
It's really tough to do because the flea flicker is very often open. You usually have multiple receivers open.
But I've seen bad interceptions on flea flickers. But it's usually when you pitch it back and you just assume the deep ball is open, you put it in the air regardless, and then it isn't, and it gets picked off. But it's picked off 45 yards downfield in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
This one, it was like the short sideline route to the linebacker.
Yeah, it was pretty poor. Again, I think it's a timing. It's another timing issue for Trevor Lawrence. Here's the one comparison I'll use. Remember when Matt Castle took over for Tom Brady back in 2008?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers that. There was a point in his season, he took 4 or 5 sacks per game, and there was a point in his season where he just started to feel more comfortable. This is just one of the distinct examples where I remember feeling like a quarterback just got it at some point during the season. Not that he ever became great. He just became better at getting rid of the ball and playing with better timing. So it was week 7 or 8, Castle just felt like he got it. And I wonder if we're just going to see that from Lawrence. I think the timing will just be there, and he'll just eliminate enough of these mistakes in a given week.
So there's a lot of this talk this week about how much a system should protect the quarterback. Justin Fields in particular. How much should you have helped him out? And this is relevant to all the other guys as well. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones is being fairly well protected by that offense. And I was listening to Albert Breer yesterday on the Ringer NFL podcast, and he was saying that there's a feeling within Jacksonville that Trevor Lawrence is essentially bulletproof, and you don't need to protect him, at which point just you got to get through this, right? This is a thing. You're just going to have to let him work through, understand what he can and can't do, and then at the end of it all, you're going to have this great quarterback, but he's got to work through all the bad anyway. So just take your lumps. Throw him out there, give him the full unvarnished version of the offense, and say, this is what you need to be able to run. Get through the mistakes. And they're confident that it won't damage him in doing that, so just get them all out of the way.
You seem like you would think that's crazy. Just knowing you. Do you think that's crazy? I don't think that's crazy as a thought process.
I think that's what Peyton Manning had, right? In 98, and he came to the end of this 98 season. Manning set the all-time interception record for a rookie and, had a very many great, terrible plays. But not a single human being was at all concerned that Peyton Manning was going to be good. It was like, okay, this is just part of the deal. You go through this, you throw a million interceptions, but he learned it. He learned how to play NFL quarterback, and then next year, we're good. My only concern is that, the league has changed quite a bit since 1998.
Yes.
And I don't know that that's necessarily a thing anymore. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that have come in and just hit the ground running and not have to go through this hell of nightmare mistakes. I think there's definitely scenarios where that's true. I'm just not 100% convinced this is one of them.
I think the thought process there is fine. One of our astute YouTube commenters actually used the point that I would make. That is what they did with Andrew Luck, right? I mean, the Colts threw a ton on Andrew Luck's plate. They're like, he does full field reads. He's great. Let's do all this stuff. And I remember when Zach Robinson was here and we had our quarterback podcast and we would review games and all that stuff. And he would come out of Andrew Luck games all the time and just be like, man, there is so much on his plate. And he was in year 3 or 4 at that point, but there was just so much on his plate. Whereas if they're saying we just got to throw Lawrence into the deep end, go swim. Mm-hmm. I don't hate it. However, if you're building an offense, when you drop back 30, 35, 40 times in a game, quarterbacks still need gimmies. They still need 10 to 15 plays where it's not all on them. It's not full field read. It's not. It's just it's like a break, right? And those are rollouts.
And that was the Andrew Luck
conversation. Those are screens
as well.
Right? Those are quick game or whatever it might be, even if that's not necessarily Lawrence's strength. So if the perspective is run the offense, there'll be mistakes, that's okay, that's fine. If they're not going to build in easy throws, then that's a mistake, right? I mean, there's got to be a balance there.
I'm also not 100% sure that you can be that confident that it won't be damaging. Like, we've talked all the time about how inexact this entire science is. Quarterback evaluation, projecting one guy from one level to the next, just how good a guy is going to be, period. You're telling me you're that sure that putting him through this fire is not going to harm him long term? I mean, I applaud your confidence. I'm just not sure there's a basis for it necessarily.
On the other side, Joe Burrow's thrown the ball 75 times through 3 games for 75 passing attempts. I'm curious. Last year when they played on Thursday Night Football,
threw that in like 60. A game. Yeah.
So I'm curious if the Bengals can keep this strategy. It's one of the most, if not the most, run-heavy offenses in the NFL. So it is actually a game where stopping the run probably matters for the Jaguars. They got to try to get the Bengals into third and longs, and the annual question, weekly question, can the Bengals protect Joe Burrow? And again, last week, getting rid of the ball quickly was fantastic. Watch Jamar Chase. Who do you like in this one? Bengals by 7, by the way.
So people, by the way, complained last week that all we were doing was taking the favorite but the underdog to cover the spread, which is unfortunate because that's where I wanted to go here.
Don't listen to people, Sam.
No.
Get your real answers with PFF Greenline.
Yes.
Right? The real answers are a part of your PFF Elite package with PFF Greenline.
7's a lot of points. I am going to go with a Trevor Lawrence breakout game and a Jacksonville win outright.
Jacksonville win?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Bengals win, Jags cover. I'm going to go with last week's take. 7. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. I want to see Trevor with 0 turnover worthy plays. That's what I want to see.
Interestingly, Greenline thinks there's value on betting the Bengals even at 7.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, the number's up to 7.5.
It's funny when I was looking through Greenline for college the other day, and or even in it might have been the NFL. Whatever my intuition was before clicking on it was like the opposite of what they said, which is the value in having something that's running the numbers for you. Anyway, let's go Arizona at the LA Rams. We got the Rams by 4. Pair of 3-0 NFC West teams. Going back to our preseason takes, the NFC West is going to be the best division in football. We may have been right. They might be tied with the AFC West, to be honest. The two Wests are great, but a nice early season matchup, and Rams coming off that incredible win at home against the Bucs. What are you liking in this game or looking for?
Yeah, I think this is a real test for the Cardinals. They've been flying high. They started last season on fire as well. So now their sort of thing is, can they sustain it and not tail off the way they did a year ago? Now they're going up against the Rams, who have suddenly become like a Super Bowl favorite all of a sudden because they beat the Bucs. Last week was being talked about as a potential NFC Championship preview. But the Rams, as you said, this is the toughest division of football. They can't switch off just to get through the division. Like, to be the best team in the division, make the playoffs, that's not necessarily going to be a gimme. If you lose games like this to Arizona, you could find yourself in trouble pretty quickly. So the Rams did a great job last week, and Arizona's defense presents some interesting challenges. They've got a weird collection of players, and I mean that like in a good way. They have a bunch of very unusual athletes and styles of player that are somehow mashed together into this one defense that's actually functioning at a really high level.
I just tweeted out, trying to get people here to the YouTube channel, which team moves to 4-0 in the Cardinals-Rams game. I think people want us to go out on the limb on predictions here. I might call a tie.
A tie?
Yeah, both teams come out 3-0-1.
Huh.
Cardinals-Rams tie.
I wonder what Greenline says about that.
They predict a tie, maybe?
I doubt it.
Imagine if they did. I'll predict a tie. That means Arizona covers the 4. The obvious thing here, the Rams defense. They gave up 430-something passing yards against the Bucs. Last week, there were a lot of empty passing yards in there because the Rams were in control of the game for the most part. To me, it's this Rams defense against big play Cardinals offense, right? The Cardinals, the move of Christian Kirk to the slot, which that's where Jalen Ramsey resides now. That is where Jalen Ramsey generally plays in the Rams' zone-heavy scheme. So he's not always manned up, but he'll play matchup zone, be a part of the run game. That's Ramsey. But it's those matchups, right? DeAndre Hopkins on the outside, Rondale Moore, and the trickeration and the screen game. He should have room with how soft the Rams play, even though the Rams work downhill pretty well. Rondale should have room to work. Again, the Bucs last week, ran a lot of screens and underneath stuff, where the Rams did a good job shutting that down for the most part. So look out for Rondale. But I think that side of the ball is going to be fascinating. And then again, to repeat it for the 19th time on this week's podcasts, the Cardinals are the 3rd highest coverage grade in the NFL. I never would have expected that. It's a tiny sample size. It's a volatile number. This early in the season, you could go from 3rd to 12th, and the Cardinals might after this week with the Rams. But that, can the Cardinals, with Byron Murphy playing well and Robert Alford, can they slow down this Rams offense, which has just been hitting all the right buttons here so far?
Yeah, and then obviously every time you play the Los Angeles Rams, you have how you deal with Aaron Donald, which is usually a bad thing for any line within that division in particular, that the entire sort of NFC West offensive lines outside of the Rams are like, let's creep toward average and a bit above if you're the 49ers. But every time you face the Rams and Aaron Donald, the whole thing cascades into disaster.
Yeah. Like,
that dude is just destroying Seattle's guards in particular every single time they play. But, you look at Arizona's as well. Last season, J.R. Sweezy at right guard, the first time they played, had a pass blocking grade of 19, Justin Pugh of 35. It's tough. Like, Donald is an absolute wrecking machine, and if you don't have that covered with a game plan, not other people, you're going to have real problems.
One of the keys to this game, because look, Kyler, a ton of big time throws this year. You mentioned on the last show, different types, right? And we're talking fades, we're talking he's zipping it in. It's a lot of scrambles outside the pocket. Kyler likes to drop his eyes in the pocket. When Donald wins, right, what do the Rams' edges do? Are they going to mop up? Are they going to keep Kyler contained? Because we might see this 2, 3, 4 times in the game. Donald's in the backfield. Kyler is one of the few quarterbacks who could drop his eyes, maneuver the pocket, If he gets outside, he's been dangerous. Do the Rams contain him? And do those turn into sacks and negative plays for the Cardinals, or big plays like they have so far this year?
There was an old commercial years ago when the Vikings were going to be playing the Green Bay Packers, and John Randall was the Vikings' best defensive player at that time, one of the best pass rushing, 3-technique defensive tackles in the league, and they had Brett Favre, the Packers. And this was the point where, like, Brett Favre at that stage was considered, an athletic, mobile quarterback that was going to run around and cause you some problems and scramble and all those kinds of things. So this ad was John Randall preparing for this game by chasing a chicken, like Rocky, and like I think it was a chicken in like a little Brett Favre number 4 Packers jersey, but it was like John Randall running around trying to catch this chicken. That's kind of how I imagine Aaron Donald chasing down Kyler Murray is going to look like.
Does this exist somewhere?
Yeah, it's got to be on YouTube.
Because I found that awesome ESPN commercial where they were previewing the draft and David Carr was sitting there behind a blank offensive line.
Yeah.
Like they deleted all of his offensive linemen and then they were like, what does your team need?
Pretty fair.
Which was great.
But that's what this is going to look like. It's going to be Kyler Murray, the chicken, being chased by Aaron Donald.
John Randall chasing a chicken commercial.
Yeah, see? I told you it would be there.
Oh, there it is. 31 seconds.
Uh-huh.
We're just all going to – everybody pause and let's watch this commercial.
We could put it in. We could stitch it in. Not in the live one. You guys are
We
out
could
of
stitch
luck.
it in
But
later.
for the regular
It's on
one, we
YouTube.
could stitch it in. Audio less so. You're going to have problems. You're going to have to go find it yourself.
I remember this now.
But that's what it's going to look like, right? That's Aaron Donald chasing Kyler Murray.
Nike commercial. It was a Nike commercial.
Okay.
So 1998 was a fun time. It was a special time.
That was 98. Okay.
I think that said 98. I thought maybe you said it. Whatever it was. Anyway, yeah. Kyler, man, he's so elusive, man. He is so elusive. The other somewhat interesting dynamic here is the Cardinals and Kingsbury have a history because of all their spread stuff. They have a history of an efficient run game. The Rams tend to invite the run. We'll see how much the Cardinals might stick with that. Stafford's playing really good football. Again, he is playing what the people who hyped him up this offseason and thought this was a perfect match and put Stafford in the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks and all that stuff, they're on point through 3 weeks. They're there. Through 3 weeks.
They are. And one of those weeks has been like a legitimate test. I mean, whatever about the first 2, it was, you probably should look great against these teams, but last week was legitimate. They beat a Tampa Bay team that is arguably the best in the NFL. Okay, they were missing a couple of players, but I don't know that would have made a huge difference. They dominated that game.
All that said, Stafford's our number 9 graded quarterback, so he's not the team production, EPA and all that stuff is at the top or near the top. Stafford's not playing as well. And again, I think this was what we may have predicted. He's going to be a low to mid 80s graded type of quarterback, and the production's going to be incredible. We'll see if it's early, but we'll see if that continues. So I predict a tie in this game. So Arizona covering the 4. Where are you going?
Yeah. This one I am going the Rams to win and the Cardinals to cover because it's right. I don't care that people don't like that.
Listen, I don't care what people think either. You just do what's right.
Okay.
What I do care about is week 3 of football being in the books, and it's time to review the tape and get ready for week 4 with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. That's right, they're official. To kick off another action-packed week, DraftKings is doing this. Ready? Giving all new customers $150 instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. You don't want to miss this, so you head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any week 4 game to receive $150 instantly in free bets. If Sportsbook's not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. It's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Of course, you must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana 109 with it. I tried to do it without a breath.
I know you almost. That was almost like amazing.
I wouldn't be good at that game where you have to hold your breath and play capture
Kabaddi.
the flag or whatever. Yeah, sure. Anyway, DraftKings Sportsbook. The promo code's PFF. Don't miss the deal. All right, tell your friends. We're previewing Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick. No one else is talking about this, but we're going to cover it here on the PFF NFL podcast because we care about the people. We care about you and YouTube land there. If you're over there, just hit the thumbs up button. That always helps us go viral, as they say. And Brady versus Belichick. I wonder if Brady signed with the Bucs. Remember, he was looking at the Chargers. He was looking at the Bucs. If he had signed with the Chargers, he would have played the Pats last year in LA. I wonder how much he looked and was like, all right, the Bucs are going to be in New England in 2021. I wonder how much he thought about the return and going back. Probably not that much.
Yeah.
But here we are.
But now that it's here and that the Bucs and obviously the Patriots are in different conferences, this is the first crack they're going to have at each other for a while. Like, assuming they don't meet in the Super Bowl, which is, always possible with Tom Brady. The next time they can face, even with the 17-game schedule, is like 2026 or something, right? Like, it's not for a while.
Yeah, it's every 4 years pretty much, unless the NFL expands to like 26 games or something.
Yeah. So this is like, Brady's going to be like 48 or something by the next time they can possibly face each other.
We might be hitting a point where Brady could outlast Belichick, right? Like, when's Belichick too old to coach and Brady's
not too old to coach, but like at what point
is he just
he's
done?
Built up 2 decades of credit in, like, money in the bank. Like, how quickly can you run through that with not great seasons?
So this is the matchup. It's in New England. Of course, either people are going to overreact and the whole Brady-Belichick legacy thing is going to come down to who wins this game.
Yeah.
And then it's week 4, so we're going to forget it by week 6, right? People are going to forget it after the fact.
Well, this is Montana young. This is that game, right? Yeah. It's the one shot you're going to have at the team that decided it was time to move on from you, and here it is. Montana, had that one great game for the Chiefs where he played Steve Young's 49ers, showed that he was still Joe Montana, was able to rub it in their face. It's like, hey, you made the mistake. Now, Steve Young was freaking incredible in that game, so there was a degree of, not really. But that's what great quarterbacks do. They show up for that one ridiculous game that doesn't mean anything really, except it means everything. This is Tom Brady. There is no way he doesn't light the Patriots on fire in this game, throw for 1,000,000 yards.
Really?
Break the touchdown record.
Well, he's already got the touchdown. He's breaking the all-time passing yards record unless he gets held to like 60 yards.
Like the single game touchdown record.
Single.
He's going to rack up like 8 of them or whatever he needs to break that. 7.
So give me a stat line. So Brady ends up, he's like 44 for 51.
Yeah.
For
like 480
582.
Yards. And 8 touchdowns.
And 8 touchdowns.
Yeah. They're already practicing it, right?
No
He's got all the red zone passing plays. It's all Brady. They're not running the ball at all within the 20. It's all been practicing.
No sneaks. He's going to check out of the sneak to throw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all been practicing for this game, so he can just hang 8 of them.
All right. Yeah. All right. I think 40. So Sam's prediction, I put words in his mouth. 44 for 51 for 585, 8 touchdowns, no picks for Tom
I would have
Brady.
gone 485, but
40. Oh, I thought he was going to break the passing yard record too as well, like single game.
No, just the all-time one. He breaks that in this game.
He'll break that in the first quarter, probably.
Yeah.
Well, first, one of the interesting dynamics here, and when we had Dan Quinn on, when I talk to defensive coaches, I always ask this question. And again, forgive me if we repeat ourselves sometimes because we have a lot of new listeners, and sometimes you have to. One of the fascinating things about me is, if you're Bill Belichick and you're game planning, are you game planning against the Bucs offense or against the quarterback, or where's that balance? How much do you look at the quarterback, who Belichick knows better than anybody, and say he likes to do this, he doesn't like to do that, he's good at this, he's not as good at this? Or is it, we just got to stop their route concepts. We have to stop their scheme. We have to attack their protection schemes. To me, that's always one of the interesting dynamics here, because on one hand, you could say Belichick knows Brady inside and out. But the real challenge is stopping the Bucs offense and the pass concepts, right? You have to find a way to stop Mike Evans. Antonio Brown is back off the COVID list. Chris Godwin, Gronk is assuming he's healthy. Brait, O.J. Howard, and Lenny. So I wonder how much that dynamic is, right? There were all those rumblings for a few years where like Patriots coaches were, Tommy was just an average quarterback. He couldn't get the ball outside the numbers, and we could have won with anybody. Those things came out over the last couple of years. Does Belichick believe that? Does he think, all right, we're just going to crowd the middle of the field? That's where Tom likes to throw, because that's not really what he's done with the Bucs, right? Does he attack Brady's weaknesses, or does he have to find a way to stop the Bucs scheme, and where's that balance?
I would think you have to craft a game plan that tries to put Brady in situations he doesn't like being in, right? Like, that's what Bill Belichick does as a defensive coach, whether it's your offense as a whole forcing you into a position you don't want to be in by taking away the guy you want to give the ball to. eliminating Tyreek Hill, eliminating your running back, whatever it is, like whatever your offensive thing is, he's going to take that away.
What is that with the Bucs,
and force you to an uncomfortable spot. But it also works for players. He also finds that whatever it is that the quarterback, usually a young one, doesn't like seeing and gives them that. Or Ben Roethlisberger finds whatever it is he doesn't want to do, show him that. Like, he spent 20 years with Tom Brady. If he doesn't know what Tom Brady doesn't like to see as a quarterback, I don't know what he was doing all that time. So he has to have some kind of game plan that at least tries to put Tom Brady in an uncomfortable spot for him. Whether it matters at all, because Brady's playing as well as he's ever played in his NFL career right now, that's a different matter.
I would say knowing what we've seen through the years, the two things that we might see. The Patriots have a lot of games where they actually play. The Patriots fans always talk, the bend but don't break defense, right? They've always played great red zone defense. I wonder how much they just give up the underneath stuff, right? So, and I wonder how much they play zone. They're playing more cover 3 this year than they have probably forever. A lot of cover 3. They're still playing a lot of cover 1, second most in the league, pure man coverage. I wonder how much just straight cover 2, cover 3 the Patriots play and say, okay, get the ball, dump it off to Lenny 15 times in this game. So force the ball, because there's a lot of games where the Patriots just let QBs throw the ball into the flat anyway. So that's one question. The second question is, even dating back to last year, Brady versus the blitz in this offense, it's still a new offense for him. Against the blitz is where you get him a little bit fidgety, right? So those 5-man pressures that Belichick does really well, blitzing the linebackers up the middle, pressure up the middle for Brady and all that stuff. Bill's seen that work. In the Belichick and the Patriots do a good job of using their linebackers there. So those are the two potential strategies I want to see, and how much they mix that up, right? How much do they play soft and let Brady dink and dunk it up the field in an offense that doesn't like to do that, right? The Patriots offense likes to do that. The Bucs offense doesn't. They like to force it down the field. And how much do they throw 5-man pressures, play man behind it, and say, make tight window throw after tight window throw, Tommy. And if he does, great. I mean, if he does, great. If he doesn't, you miss a few throws here and there, the Patriots can stay in it.
Yeah, the other part of this is, if they can't slow down that Tampa Bay offense, like, can New England's offense keep pace? Like, if
yes,
you need to do a pretty good job on defense to slow that Bucs offense to the point where the Patriots offense, as it currently stands, is in the game without doing anything.
That was the other point I wanted to make. The Patriots are equipped to shorten the game, and not in the way that we always talk about, like, the Ravens are going to sit on it and run it. And the Patriots with Mac Jones, I know they tried to force the ball down the field because of the game flow last week, but it has been underneath passing quite a bit. They've put together a ton of 10, 15-play drives. Again, I think it was the Saints game. They had a 16-play field goal drive, right? I wonder if the Patriots can put together those types of drives against a Bucs defense. Again, they're playing zone. They're giving up the underneath stuff, which meshes with what the Patriots want to do. Are they going to be able to take 10 minutes off of a quarter with a drive here and there just to keep the Bucs? I mean, to me, that's one of the best things that the Patriots can do. Hope for some turnover luck and all this stuff, and at the end of the game, maybe 24-21 or something like that. I mean, that's a best case scenario for the Patriots, where they're shortening the game and letting Mac Jones just make quick decisions going up and down the field. But you're expecting a Bucs blowout.
Yeah. Maybe not a blowout, but like a comfortable win.
Okay. I think the Bucs win.
I just don't see any way, with the evidence, the previous evidence of Montana, that Tom Brady allows this game to not be a comfortable win, to prove to the world that the Patriots screwed up by not keeping him around, giving him everything he wanted.
I think the Montana comp, though, I was all in on the Montana comp last year. I thought Brady was going to have a good year in Tampa Bay. He'd take him to the playoffs. He'd elevate the team, and they'd lose divisional round, conference championship. Montana lost in the conference championship, right, with the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I thought there would be the similar story, right? And it'd be like, I mean, what do you expect? The guy's old. He's done. Brady goes and ruins the whole thing. They win the Super Bowl, go through all the top teams in the NFC and the AFC along the way. Does that take a little luster off this thing? Because if they had just had a good season last year, it'd be like, all right, this is a little more defining, Brady versus Belichick.
No, I think if anything, it adds to it, because now you've got the momentum, or the narrative is already swinging away from Bill Belichick towards Brady, because he just went to a new team, won a Super Bowl his first time of asking. Now he's coming back to show you in your own building that, again, Like this, Belichick's back is up against the wall now in a way it wouldn't have been.
Brady's coming in with like bullies, man. He's coming in. He's like, I got Mike Evans, I got Godwin,
Right.
I got AB.
But
I'm
if,
bringing my buddy Gronk back.
If Brady had just been good last year and they'd got to the playoffs and then lost in the divisional round of the conference championships, this would have been less. This we would still be even. It would still be Belichick versus Brady. It's an even split. They're both responsible. Now it's, well, this dude over here won a Super Bowl when you parted. This guy didn't. You know, where would you go? I will, like, the other thing is, this has to really matter to Belichick as well.
I got asked that on radio today. You think this really means a ton?
Yes, absolutely. It felt like he always, relished the fact that he beat the living crap out of Drew Bledsoe every time they faced after he kicked him to the curb.
Bledsoe beat them 31-0 one time, and
Right.
then they beat them back 31-0. Yeah.
Yeah. But it felt like he really enjoyed fairly well owning Bledsoe after that.
That's the tough dynamic. You've got Brady's stubbornness and ability to step up in a game he's supposed to against. Yeah, Belichick's
Right.
got a pretty good history.
Well, pretty good history, and I suspect it really matters to him. But the difference is, instead of Drew Bledsoe, who's like just a regular great quarterback, you've got this freak over here who's the greatest of all time and motivated by things only known to him that the rest of us can't even envisage as a slight.
I'm kind of leaning toward Bill. Bill makes Brady maybe look the worst he has all year. Because he's great. Even last year, last week he graded well against the Rams. He's the highest graded quarterback by about 7 points so far through 3 games. Brady's playing really well. The other dynamic here, New England, I know they haven't played great quarterbacks. Lowest passer rating on 10-plus yard throws. Brady's got the most yards on 10-plus yard throws. Like, there's this strength against strength element where I think New England might make things a little uncomfortable for the Bucs offense, and eventually the Bucs pull away just because they're a better team. So I don't think it's a lopsided game. It's a pretty good game where the Bucs end up pulling away, but I don't think we come out with, just like in Brady Manning games, you didn't have that like definitive shootout where it was like 45-42. They were both incredible. They were just uneven and nothing was special. You might get that in this game.
The Rams were able to get some interior pressure against Brady last week, and obviously they have Aaron Donald and the Patriots don't. But that has always been, the narrative has always been that that's like Brady's kryptonite. Now, all of a sudden, he somehow like ducked under 2 of those things and scrambled away and made some plays anyway. But I wonder if it's going to be interesting to see how New England attack them, like that offensive line, which is, I think, one of the better in the NFL, but wasn't great last week, even independent of like blocking Aaron Donald, which always torpedoes an offensive line. So can the Patriots, who have a pretty good defensive front, obviously absent an Aaron Donald, but they've got some horses up front. Like, how do they even approach attacking that Tampa Bay offensive line? Do they try and get creative and, roll with stunts and twists and all these kinds of things and just confuse the protection? Do they do it with blitz packages and blitz looks and try and confuse the assignments? Or do they just like load up on specific areas and just come after them?
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if they're blitzing linebackers. That's what they like to do throughout history. Do they put those guys right over the center and just, 5-man pressures, get after it? Well, it's going to be fun. Sunday Night Football, the boss is on the call. I'll take Tampa Bay to eventually cover the 7. I don't think it's a blowout, but I think they eventually cover the 7 over New England. Or is this Mac Jones coming out party? Don't forget Mac Jones with the it factor that he has. Is he just going to go like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm the next guy. Watch me go head-to-head with Tommy. It could happen. You think Tampa Bay covers the 7?
Yes. 91% of the money and 95% of the tickets is coming.
That makes me think New England is they're gonna make just enough defensive stops, have those 1 or 2 long drives that it shortens the game, and it's a lot closer than people think.
We are dealing with, according to PFF's ELO rankings, Tampa Bay is ranked number 2 in defense, number 1 in offense, and number 2 overall. The Patriots are 22, 19, and 19. It's a mismatch. And an angry Tom Brady.
The other thing
and an angry Tom Brady.
The other thing at stake here is the Patriots falling to 1-3.
Yeah.
That is uncharted for Belichick and the Patriots. All right, let's go to the other big game of the week. Baltimore Ravens at the Denver Broncos. Broncos favored by 1 against the Ravens. Yeah, the Ravens just snuck past the Lions last week, 19-17. So another tough road battle here for the Ravens, and a lot of AFC playoff implications here. Can Denver go to 4-0? It's definitely the best offense Denver has faced through 3 weeks, but they've given up 26 points for whatever it's worth against the Giants, Jets, and Jaguars. What do you expect in this one?
Yeah, this is fun. Denver's season starts with this game. They're 3-0. They've looked great. I guess they've exceeded expectations because Bridgewater has probably looked better than we anticipated him looking, even given the competition. But those are 3 teams you should have beaten, and they did. And I'm not sure how much extra credit you can give them for like style points for beating up on those teams. It's a bit like preseason, right? You don't get any additional credit for how good you were in preseason. I just need you to tick the box that you were good. Doesn't mean anything, but you need to at least tick that box. So Denver ticked that box. They're 3-0 against 3 teams that were expected to whoop up on, and now you face Baltimore. This is when it actually starts, and you have to show that all that stuff you were able to do beforehand still holds against legitimate teams.
We did the PFF NFL Daily today. Go check it out because Rashad Bateman's on his way back. Don't know if he'll be available for this game or not, but he's going to be playing football soon. And we described what's going to happen with this Baltimore offense. They're still running the ball at a ridiculous level. Tyson Williams is averaging over 6 per carry. Now Latavius Murray's under 4. They haven't gotten him going yet. But either way, they're averaging 6.5 per carry. Like the Ravens continue to interchange running backs and move the ball on the ground. But they are attacking down the field more than ever. Lamar's throwing the ball down the field. It's a big play offense against a defense that loves to avoid big plays. So this is a good strength against strength play. Ravens offense against this Denver defense that has been just really good at every level. Patrick Surtain as a rookie, Justin Simmons on the back end. Pass rushers are doing a really good job.
Von Miller back, looking like Von Miller.
Vaughn is back, and in run defense grade wise, Denver's been solid. So
that becomes really interesting because remember a few years ago, was it the Chiefs that just kept optioning off Von Miller, like rather than try and block him?
The Eagles did it in a game.
Eagles, that was it. Yeah. Rather than attempt to actually block Von Miller at the peak of his powers, they just ran options off him every single play and took him out that way, right? You just put him in a bind between 2 different things in 2 different directions, and Von Miller is essentially neutralized, just standing there waiting until you make a decision. It would be interesting to see if that's what Baltimore do. You know, like they made Chris Jones look ridiculous against the Chiefs a couple of times by optioning him and just putting a big 300-pound dude in space and saying you've got to try and get, like you have to make a decision between Lamar Jackson or the running back, and you have 10, 15 yards to cover to make that call. Like it's just impossible. Now, Miller is more athletic and has better range than Chris Jones does, but it's still a fairly impossible task.
I mean, the point of optioning off somebody, like it's putting them in a bind. They either make a decision or they sit there and look lost.
Blocking them without blocking them.
Yeah, it's not a bad play, but it's a way to take, even when you just look at the roster and you're on your elite, premium stats here. Von Miller's an 89.5. He's the only one in the blue. He's got a history of grading in the blue in our system, right? So if you just say, I'm going to take this guy out of the game,
and in particular,
that's a good starting point.
Baltimore at right tackle has Patrick McCarry, who's done okay actually coming in at right tackle. But do you want him blocking Von Miller every snap? No, I don't either.
No, probably not. And
I'm also
Von is not just a pass rusher, historically an elite run defender as well.
And if Von goes to the other side, I also don't want Villanueva blocking him for what that's worth.
Me neither. We got to save his grade. He had it wasn't in prime time, so we didn't talk about it, but he crept back toward bad.
Crept back toward terrible.
Yeah. Last week. But his left tackle grades even out to average.
So far this season in 3 games, he's been a terrible right tackle and an average left tackle through being good and then bad.
Maybe they should put him to wide receiver. Imagine those weapons: Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins, Marquise Brown, Ali Villanueva.
In a red zone threat, Ali?
Yeah.
Go to the corner?
How is he not catching? I mean, he's a little older now. A little bit.
He can still move.
The most fascinating career.
If Nate Solder can catch a touchdown pass from Tom Brady, Ali Villanueva should be getting end zone fades.
18 yards after the catch, by the way. Solder on his touchdown pass. Another, and it's a Teddy. This is a big game for Teddy here, right? The Ravens. Are they going to come after him? With the blitz scheme and the whole thing. And Teddy's had some nice plays as far as pocket movement and avoiding pressure and sidestepping and getting out of traffic and the whole thing.
He's played really well.
He really is.
But
they're getting depleted.
And who's he played?
I'll say that the Jets defense, though, Salah's done a nice job there. The Giants defense should be better. and then the Jags.
It should, but isn't. The big thing about Teddy this year, so two things. One, he has been significantly more aggressive than we have typically seen from him in terms of pushing the ball down the field. His average at the target is 9.5 so far this year, which,
not Teddy-like.
Right. 10 is a benchmark for, if you're above 10, you're probably in the top 2 or 3 in the NFL in any given season. Teddy is typically 7, maybe 6. Like 9.5 is really high for him. And he's done it without putting the ball in harm's way. He has 1 turnover-worthy play so far this year. Remember, before the season, I've been saying that, look, he gets sort of pegged as this game manager style of quarterback, but he's always put the ball in harm's way a little bit more than that. Like, he isn't an Alex Smith type of quarterback who just never puts the ball at risk. He does, but this season he hasn't. So those two things have been the things he needed to do to take that step from being, Teddy Bridgewater's our quarterback, to, you know what, he might actually be good enough that this group of playmakers and this defense can go somewhere.
And
but all of that has been against, 3 teams you would expect.
Ravens aren't blitzing at the ridiculous rate that they did last year, but still 3rd highest in the league. So you're going to see pressure.
But that's all because they dialed it back for Kansas City.
Right, they did. So they are still a team that in a given game can get after you about 50% of the time.
And you would expect in this game them to dial it back up again.
This season, Bridgewater against the blitz. I'm sorry, I got the wrong thing on, but mid-level grade for Bridgewater. He's done much better against 4-man rushes. 73 passing grade so far this year against the blitz. I think that is what could make Teddy come back down to earth a little bit this week, the Ravens attacking them. So where are you going to go? Denver by 1 here. I'm going to take Baltimore to win and cover.
Win and cover.
And cover. Finally an underdog to win.
You think that the Denver Broncos get found out?
Yeah. Or we're going to come out of this and we're going to spend a week. Are the 4-0 Denver Broncos for real? They passed their first test. I mean, it's going to be a big story in Denver.
I'm with you. I think Baltimore wins. I think, therefore, Baltimore covers. I do think, though, that this is like the Rams game a week ago. If we come out of this and Denver has handled business, then they're absolutely for real. Like, this is a potential statement game for Denver. I don't think they're going to make that statement, but if they do, I'm convinced. Like, if Denver is 4-0, in a few days' time, I'm not asking the question, are they for real? I'm taking that as read that they are for real.
It's a fascinating time because I used to envision this world where like the quarterback rankings were just all over the place because Brady and Rodgers, like those guys eventually leave. Brady's number 1, PFF passing grade. Brady's number 1, but the group in the top 10, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, Ryan Tannehill, who's now always there, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, Teddy Bridgewater. It is a whole new slew of names. It's only 3 games, but it's a whole new slew of names in the top 10. I think Bridgewater comes back down just a touch, though, in this game. So, yeah, give me the Ravens here. All right, we'll go a little bit quicker through the rest of the games. We'll give you one key thing to watch or so. Kansas City Chiefs at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles coming off a thrashing against the Dallas Cowboys.
Thrashing.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
They got thrashed. It's not the word of the day, but it's a good one.
It's not one I would have associated with you either.
A thrashing?
It's much more of a, upper middle class British term.
Is it?
I'll give you a damn good thrashing, old boy.
Oh, is that how you do
Yeah.
it? Yeah. I'll use my accent and stick with my delivery.
All right. It's fine. You do you.
So KC, they're 1-2.
Yeah.
They'll be
not gone well.
They're favored by 7 at Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I think ultimately that's a reflection of how they're losing. It's not like they suck. It's that they do really well and then just keep turning the ball over to somebody, which is probably not something that's going to continue throughout the entirety of the season. Particularly when there's no obvious reason for them, right? Like they haven't suddenly, they're fluky plays. Like turnovers typically are quite fluky plays. So the Chiefs are still good. They're very good.
The Eagles are at some interesting ends of extremes, right? It's like they threw all of our offseason analysis in our face on Monday night. And I know game flow matters and all that stuff. They handed the ball off 3 times, and Jalen Hurts had 2 carries. They ran the ball 5 times against Dallas for 64 yards, by the way. That includes a scramble in there as well. I think 1 or 2 scrambles. So the whole point of having Jalen Hurts, who has made some good throws this year. He had the pick 6 the other night, and he had some bad stuff. He had some good stuff. And I was asked today, what's Jalen Hurts? Is he the guy?
Right.
He looks like another mid-tier quarterback where, like, depending on the time of the game, Yeah, he looks good. No, maybe not so good. Like, we're going to have this roller coaster.
Remember the pick six, his receiver fell over on the play.
Yeah, it was heavy debate about that play. Was it left behind and the receiver yeah, I mean, either way, it probably shouldn't have been thrown with the way the corner was sitting on it. Great play by
the way,
Diggs.
Devontae Smith, terrible in that game. He got bullied and controlled and dominated by Trevon Diggs, his former teammate.
Yeah. Do you know what that reminds me of? Jarvis Landry has games where he's good and efficient and moves the chains. He has other games where he just isn't there. He just gets taken out of it. And I wonder if Devontae is going to have that level of inconsistency based off of this type of result.
If you were of the opinion that weighing 166 pounds is actually going to matter at the NFL when you come up against like a 200-pound corner, that was a game that would back you up. Because it's not that Devontae can't get off that kind of press coverage or deal with that kind of physicality. It's, I think, that when it happens, he's thinking about it every time. He wasn't himself in that game to the point where it was like everything he was doing required thought. And it's like, oh, if I don't get this right, this dude is going to erase me on this play because he outweighs me by 40 pounds. And there's nothing I can do about that. And it felt like everything he was doing was just thinking so hard about not screwing up. And obviously, what happens when you spend your entire time thinking about not screwing up? You screw up,
yes.
Right?
Can't play sports that way.
Yeah, and it felt like that's what he was doing, and Diggs just owned him.
So my point with the Eagles here, I think they're going to want to run the ball a little bit more. Again, Hurts dropped back 48 times against the Cowboys. I think they're going to want to get back to that high floor offense where Hurts is a part of the run game, use Miles Sanders, and play the game. We try to keep the ball away from the Chiefs.
Hurts, by the way, his grade, so it started off 89.5 against the Falcons. Is Hurts a significantly better player than everybody thought he was going to be going into the season? Did he develop hugely in the offseason? Week 2 against San Francisco, reasonably good, left some plays on the table. PFF grade is 76, so already down 13 points from the first game. Week 3, all in his hands, puts up some numbers, also made some bad mistakes. PFF grade is 66. So we've gone 90, essentially, 76, 66 in a fairly rapid tumble down the stairs.
It'll be 56 in this game?
I don't know if he'll go down, but my point is he's gone from wow, this is a completely different player from a year ago to one game and one more step away from the same grade he had last year.
So, I mean, Hurts got to play a really good game here because, again, the way the Chiefs have lost is teams being aggressive. They played 3 good teams. But teams saying, we got to score a lot of points. We got to get to 30. We got to get...
And 1 million turnovers.
And also get some turnovers. But the Browns, the Ravens, and the Chargers were all aggressive. They got after it. They all scored over 30 points, right? Or at least 30 points. We'll see if the Eagles can get there. The one other interesting dynamic, the Eagles are playing a ton of zone coverage. A lot of soft zone. Quarterbacks have to be patient against them. There are open throws to be had. Mahomes has played games like that, but it's another this will be an interesting dynamic. Mahomes at 1-2, right? Does he start to force the ball? Is he going to try to do too much, or does he continue to stay within himself? In these games, he usually does.
Kansas City had 6 turnovers through 3 games. They had 15 all last year.
Yeah. Again, they had some luck last year. Mahomes actively tried to throw the ball to a defender to lose against the Falcons last year, and it got dropped. They had some luck. I think it'll all even out. But Philly's only allowed 1 catch on 20-plus yard throws here. And so I wonder the human element of Mahomes pressing and trying to be a hero, is that going to show up? Or is he going to take the underneath stuff over and over and over again? When teams play them this way, he showed that he can do that. Are they feeling the heat, though? Are they feeling the pressure at 1-2? I think Kansas City's fine. I think they cover the 7 even on the road.
Yeah, I think they probably are feeling the heat, but I don't know that makes any difference. I think they're significantly better than the Eagles and win and cover.
Speaking of feeling the heat, the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay. You see, Ethan tells me it's International Podcast Day.
Oh, wow. We're an international podcast.
A huge amount of our listeners are international.
Yeah, so, happy International Podcast Day to all of our millions and millions of listeners.
To everybody.
We appreciate everybody. Tell your friends. Continue to grow this PFF NFL podcast because we continue to grow, and we are just very appreciative that we can just talk ball with you guys every single week. That's why we added a whole new show on Wednesday because there's just not enough time in the week. How much we do? 8 hours of podcasting in a week? Just you and me?
2, 4, 5.
6. It's 6 hours between
6.
the daily.
About 6.
8 podcasts, 6 hours. We just talk at each other.
Yeah.
into you, with you. Happy International Podcast Day, everybody. Seahawks have never been 1-3 with Russell Wilson. They're at 1-2, and they're the underdog this week at the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers favored by 3. I think Seattle's worst start, they were 2-4 back in 2015, but they've never been 1-3 under Russ. What are you looking for in this one?
I mean, I think a big thing is, are the 49ers actually going to deploy Trey Lance in any useful way? I'm still so amazed that they didn't break it out last week against Green Bay. It was like they watched Jared Goff gash Green Bay with a zone read play and just assumed because that happened it would be fixed. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is such a glaring mistake. Obviously, the Packers will have spent the week preparing for Trey Lance on zone reads, and therefore we won't even break it out because they'll have fixed it. It's like, well, okay, they might have done that, but surely you check. And by the way, checking doesn't even mean like Trey Lance has to carry it.
Just be on the field.
Just put him out there, run a zone read, and have him hand it off to the running back. And if the dude assigned to Trey Lance has no interest in him, then maybe the next time you let Trey Lance keep it and run into the space that Jared Goff scampered off into. But instead, it was like, no, he's just going to roll out there for 2 plays randomly in the game.
So I don't even know if they need Trey Lance, the Niners, in this game. The Vikings game last week, Kirk Cousins' average depth of target was like 6. Beautiful throw on the post. But how many times did they just run a little speed out on 3rd and 4 against soft coverage from the Seattle corners, DJ Reed, Trey Flowers? How many times did that happen? It was like over and over and over. Now, look, Justin Jefferson's fantastic. Adam Thielen's fantastic. Vikings offense was, but that's the Kubiak tree in Minnesota. You got the Shanahan tree, and it's the same offense, right? Jimmy Garoppolo likes to throw the ball underneath. I think the Niners attack Seattle the same way. Like, Seattle's got to figure something out defensively. Last year was we're getting rid of the cover 3 stuff. We got Jamal Adams. He's uber pass rusher. We're going to blitz him 10 to 12 times a game. This year he's only rushed the passer 15 times. They're playing coverage a lot more. They don't have a good coverage unit. They don't have a good group of corners. They're linebacker. And then once they start jumping the underneath stuff, Cousins hitting the dig behind him. I mean, they're just out of sorts defensively in Seattle. And I think the Niners can rely on the pass game and take all the underneath stuff unless Seattle decides to adjust.
Yeah, the Adams thing is funny. So you sort of say only, 15 times rushing the passer. But he, quote unquote, only rushed it 106 times last year. So, 5?
He was hurt. He missed some games. I mean, it was
right,
about 10
but it's
times
not,
a game. It was a lot of games where it was 10, 12
they've
times.
They've dialed him back, but it's not massively. And yet he has 0 pressure this year. He's rushed the passer 15 times. That's nothing to show for it. Last year, 106 times, he had 34 pressures. He was getting a pressure 1 out of every 3 times he rushed the passer last year.
And I'm not sure what the right answer is.
11 of which were sacks, by the way. This year, he's rushed the passer 15 times, hasn't got anything yet.
And I'm not sure what the right answer is for how to deploy Jamal Adams. I think he's better in a 2-high system where he's the split safety. You play cover 2, you play quarters where he can man up or work downhill, and then play a little bit in the box when you play cover 3. I don't think a pure cover 3 strong safety is tapping into everything that Adams can do.
Well, the problem with a player like that, who is not even a jack of all trades, who's a good safety at everything, is in order to maximize that, you need a defense that actually caters for that kind of player that moves around and can assume multiple different roles at the same time. So Carolina, dedicated a lot of time last year to doing that with Jeremy Chin within their defense. Minnesota asks a lot of Harrison Smith with all the different coverage shells they run. He's the one player that is the sort of linchpin that makes it all function.
I think Harrison Smith's a good proxy for Adams skill set wise.
Yeah, but Seattle doesn't do defense the way Minnesota does, and they don't have enough variety in there for it to make any sense for Jamal Adams to move around a ton. So what do you do with him? Now you just start going, well, he's a really good athlete and rushes the passer well, so let's blitz him randomly. But the defense isn't set up to do that. You're kind of forcing this situation that shouldn't exist if you were just calling the defense the way you would normally call it, because Jamal Adams is a special athlete. It doesn't feel like a great fit yet.
The one other thing that Seattle needs to figure out, their interior offensive linemen all getting smoked as far as pass game goes. I mean, Kyle Fuller at center, 2 straight weeks, they're struggling with twists and stunts. They're struggling with power players. Russ is getting pressured up the middle. And it came back to bite. They were down 10, I think it was, and he's got an open 3rd and 8 or whatever, overthrows it with pressure in his face. I mean, it's starting to come back to bite. So the offensive line, which did get better last year, and the tackles, I know Brandon Shell's hurt, and that was a disaster last week too. Brandon Shell and Dwayne Brown had done a good job at the interior. Has to be better. So the Niners pass rush, getting Nick Bosa back on track, I think is going to be key. They weren't getting after Aaron Rodgers a whole lot last week. Niners pass rush against Seattle's offensive line. And then Niners, I'm with you on let's show Trey Lance a little bit more. I just wonder if the Niners they want to run the ball, but I just wonder if they can take the short passes all the way up the field and make the Seahawks try to adjust their scheme somehow.
It's also going to be interesting to see if they are as brazen with their coverages as they were against Green Bay, where it's just like, we're going to show you man coverage and we're going to run it and you're going to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. And
the Niners.
And we're going to be sad. Like now you're going up against DK Metcalf. Like there are players I'm not sure you necessarily want to be telegraphing man coverage against.
Right. Yeah, that is, to me, that's the one difference in the Niners versus the 2019 team where they had cornerbacks playing really well that year. Now they're much more depleted on the back end.
And I don't even mind playing man coverage, but let's, disguise it a little bit. Let's not necessarily every single play.
No, they were just press man.
And be like, no, this is what you're getting. And then, okay, if I'm getting that, then why would I go anywhere other than throwing the ball to Devontae Adams?
Is Josh Norman going to be back? He was like, what was
he
doing?
Internal hemorrhaging or whatever.
Yeah.
Albeit somehow optimistic that he would play. He's questionable with a chest, quote-unquote, injury. Chest injury,
Can I read
which
it?
I think was, read it.
From Ian Norman, chest, spent Sunday night in the hospital, but he's in good spirits and hopes to play in week 4, per Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network.
That's not the worst one. The one that was telling it was like both lungs were damaged and something else.
They trimmed that part out to fit it into the one-liner here on ESPN.com. But Norman's questionable. K'Wan Williams is questionable with a calf strain and potentially out for a while. So, we're talking about a depleted group of cornerbacks here. Got to cover DK on the outside. So
Lockett's questionable, though, which would be
Lockett is banged up.
Big break for them. 49ers, that is.
People because he gets hurt every year and the Seattle offense, tends to, sputter a little bit. And I don't know if it's just Tyler Lockett. It's just when you're top heavy. It's an offense that's top heavy. It's 2 receivers. Much like Kansas City, right? If they lose a Tyreek Hill or a Travis Kelce, they should be less productive, right? I mean, Seattle is probably as top-heavy as Kansas City. Gerald Everett's a nice underneath option, but D. Eskridge is coming back, their second-round pick.
He hasn't played. He's injured. Tyler Lockett, if Lockett is out and Eskridge is out, then it's Metcalf and Freddie Swain. Yeah. And that's basically it.
So who do you like in this one here?
I like...
I'm sitting here trashing Seattle, and I'm going to call, and I think they're going to cover and win.
Yeah,
I just don't see them going to 1-3.
I like Seattle to win. I just can't people. I think because of the way that game panned out, kind of ignored the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo had an almost complete meltdown late in the game.
He went from meltdown, throwing hospital balls, throwing the ball backwards that he thought was incomplete, to making a couple nice throws. It was quite the roller coaster ride.
I'm just not buying into that versus. Russ.
I think Seattle's scheme fits well for Garoppolo to have a good game here. But I'm going to take Seattle to win. Russ is going to bail him out. This time the fourth quarter comeback works for Russ. All right, Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. I got that right, Vegas and Los Angeles.
Well
Great.
done.
It's not Oakland and San Diego or anything like that,
it's not.
Right? It's Monday Night Football. The Chargers are favored by 3 over the undefeated Raiders. Wow, what an awesome Monday Night Football game here.
It's a good one, right?
Battle of 2 quarterbacks with top 5 PFF passing grades. Carr's at 2nd. Herbert's 5th. Carr's balling. He's throwing 400 yards per game through 3 weeks. No big deal. And Herbert's balling out too. Pass first offense and spreading around, and it's great. The player out there for the Chargers.
Well
Darren Waller's on the other side with the player, number 33 on the Chargers. There could be some matchups there that are fun to watch.
Do not jinx him.
I would never say his name.
Do it.
A lot of good stuff in this game.
Really is. Yeah, this is a fun matchup. And again, the data all says that, hey, look, I know Kansas City is at the bottom of that division right now, but at some point they're going to stop shooting themselves in the foot 6 times a game, and they will therefore win a bunch of games. So the PFF power rankings, the projections, the data, the 10,000 simulations, they still have Kansas City coming out on top of that division, which puts everybody in the same boat again of we are shooting for the wild card spots. And, if Kansas City does continue to stumble, we could maybe steal the division from them. So this is huge. Like, all of that division looks good. And these are two good teams facing each other. I'm actually really excited by this one.
Yeah, at first glance, division primetime games don't feel that I don't love them because
most of them are never two good teams.
Right, you see this all the time, and it's usually it's always like Cowboys, Eagles in primetime for the
right.
900th time.
It's like trying to convince yourself that because it's a division game, this is a really good matchup. But it's like both these teams aren't actually any good, so why do I care just because it's within the division? It's like the rivalry between Chicago and Detroit. Like what? No.
But
whereas
this one is
they're actually
legit.
two really good teams.
I want to throw praise the Raiders' way.
Okay.
Stuff that I didn't like their offseason. I didn't think they made many inspiring moves. Perhaps we missed the boat on the Casey Hayward signing. I'm sure we said, hey, that's a good signing, but it didn't. I don't think it registered enough in my head what the payoff could be. The payoff through 3 games has been fantastic because with the Gus Bradley system where Hayward has been great historically. He had a rough season last year, but he's bounced back. 85 coverage grade, outstanding. He's given up 26 yards into his coverage and has 2 pass breakups, allowed 3 catches. That's awesome.
And got a safety.
And he had a safety. Oh, what a terrible play that was. The delayed smoke screen in the end zone. Delayed smoke screen.
I wouldn't do it.
No, me neither. So Casey Hayward's balling. Yannick Ngakoue, I think at times looks like a one-trick pony rushing off the edge, but the one trick this year has been great with 15 pressures. Max Crosby's been fantastic with 25 pressures. We'll see if they can keep all this up. But yeah, the Raiders' offseason free agent moves have been good, and they're getting contributions there. The defense has been better. Nate Hobbs, 5th-round pick, balling out at corner, playing that slot role where Desmond King excelled. We'll see, and maybe it's just you just grab any 5th-round corner and you slot them in. That's what Desmond King did, and they play well in that system, perhaps. But Raiders have some moves that they hit on that have helped trigger this 3-0 start.
I think Casey Hayward is a massive contributing factor to this defense. Like, he's a guy who, over the last decade of play, the PFF grades essentially are like Revis, Sherman, Casey Hayward. Like, those are the 3 guys.
And Chris Harris.
Yeah, and Chris Harris right up there as well. But Casey Hayward has been phenomenal within this defense. He's been phenomenal as a slot or out wide. And last year, his play just fell off a cliff. He graded terribly last year relative to everything else. And it's just another one of those situations where when you look at a guy's age, it just triggers certain things in you, right? A guy has a bad season at age 32. Okay, I think that's probably the end for him, right? He's not going to bounce back and be the same guy. Why would he? This is when players start to age and go bad. But he did. Like, he has so far. And if that's become a sort of throwaway gamble, roll of the dice signing that's paid off massively for them. And I think those are probably always smart to do. Like, let's pick up a guy who's not going to cost much, who has insane potential, and let's see if this has been one too many, one go around too far, or if it was just a bad year and he was dealing with some injuries or whatever, and this year he's actually going to bounce back, and he's going to be one of those guys like Terrence Newman who plays till he's 38 or whatever. Like, we could have 6 more years of good Casey Hayward, and you just had a bad year in the middle somewhere. Or it could be like the harbinger of his demise. There's no way of knowing until you sign him and throw him out there and see what happens. So, yeah, I think you should credit the Raiders for rolling that dice, for taking that chance. And, there was a pretty good chance that it didn't amount to anything, but it has. And the thing that it's amounted to is a completely transformative factor in your defense, because now you have a number 1 corner that you didn't have before. You didn't have any viable corner, let alone a number 1 guy. Now you have a number 1 guy, and all you got to try and do is figure out the rest of it.
Yeah, Trayvon Mullen, that was the one. Trayvon Mullen looked like their one before the signing
right.
of Hayward.
He was their number
Mullen,
1 corner, essentially, before that.
And it was like, he's had some ups and downs through 2 years, but he could fit in the system pretty well, and they're both playing pretty well. On the other side, here's the stat to watch. Derek Carr leading the NFL, most passing yards on 20-plus yard throws. Chargers 3rd fewest deep passing yards allowed. And they just played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Right? They played the Chiefs. They've played the Cowboys. They played the football team. But they played a couple teams that can get the ball down the field. So early returns on the Chargers defense with Brandon Staley, they are doing a pretty good job of avoiding the deep ball. So oh boy, Chargers by 3 in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to heap the praise on the Raiders so that I could pick the Chargers now. I wanted to at least compliment them through 3 weeks. I'm going to pick the Chargers to win. I think it's close. I'll say the Chargers cover the 3, though.
So here's the thing. I think that the Raiders' pass rush is being massively inflated right now because they haven't really faced any viable offensive lines. And not only have they not faced like even average lines, so the Ravens would be the best line they faced. But when they faced the Ravens left tackle was broken and couldn't play, and their right tackle was Villanueva, who can't play at right tackle, right? So 2 guys who on paper are okay gave up 19 pressures. Like the weakness of the Ravens offensive line is supposed to be the interior, but the strength was a disaster in that game. So they're just beating up on this sequence of horrendous offensive lines. Now, the Chargers have a reasonable offensive line, but are currently starting Storm Norton at right tackle, who isn't good. So Max Crosby, in particular, should still have a field day in this game. And when you've got one guy just getting a ton of pressure, that makes a difference. So I think the Raiders might still be able to skate through a few games with just these mismatches up front, and then it's not until they face a good offensive line that we're going to get a handle on how good that pass rush actually is.
Interesting. Are you going Raiders because of that?
Yeah,
mismatch?
I'm buying in.
All right. Raiders to cover and win?
Yeah.
All right. Sam's going with the Raiders. Let's go Carolina Panthers at the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are favored by 4 over the 3-0 Panthers. Again, this is the reason why teams aren't just, you don't just power rank based off of record. Vegas and anything that
4.5 now.
4.5 now. Okay, so it continues to go in Dallas's favor. So people don't think that the Panthers, Vegas doesn't believe that the Panthers are a better team than the Cowboys. I don't believe that they're a better team. It is the first big test for the Carolina Panthers defense. I will heap praise on them as well. They've got the highest percentage of unblocked pressures per pass play. They've got the highest percentage of all pressures per pass play. Panthers are doing some nice things defensively. Sam Darnold playing some good, efficient football. We talked yesterday. He's kind of looking like we had expected. I expected, at least coming out of college. So what are you looking for in this one? It's a big test for the Panthers here at 3-0.
It is, yeah. The Panthers, I think, are another one of those teams where they're a little bit inflated because of the teams that they've played. This is another real test for them. Dallas is a good side. We already knew that Dallas's offense would be cooking, but their defense has taken some pretty big steps forward. They're not an amazing unit, but they were catastrophic a year ago, and they're definitely not that right now. So all of a sudden, Carolina's offense is going to be challenged by facing a defense that's good enough to cause some problems. And then on the other side, like that defense that's the best in the NFL right now on paper or statistically is going up against an offense that's cooking. Like Dak Prescott, all those receiving weapons, the two-headed monster in the backfield of Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard, they can move the ball. So this is, I think, a really interesting test for them of, like, does all of this stuff that looks like it's happening right now actually hold up against a much better team than they've been facing?
And Dak's playing pretty well as far as he's throwing the ball extremely well. A couple turnover-worthy plays I think he would want back. That's why his grade is a little bit lower, but I think the Dallas offense is what we expected. The narrative continues to be built, though, because the one game where Dak threw the ball like crazy, they lost. The 2 games where they did run the ball better, and I think Zeke ran hard Monday night. He looked good.
That was the best game I've seen from him.
I was thinking the same thing.
Time.
I was thinking the same thing. And I don't know if he listened to the Daily like Bill Simmons, and his shout out to Bill for giving us a shout out on his podcast, saying, "Hey, I listened to the Daily where you guys they questioned Tony."
You keep
Pollard.
Giving him a shout out on the show he's not listening to, though.
Well, we're gonna make him listen to this show.
I don't think he has time for this kind of show. Bill's a busy man. Bill doesn't have 2 hours to sit down and listen to the preview.
No,
he's a daily man. It's 10 minutes in and out.
You don't think Bill consumes all 6 hours of our podcasting every week?
I don't. I think he can deal with the dailies.
Yeah.
It's bite-sized for him. He can do that when he's like having cereal in the morning.
Yeah, big bite-sized guy.
Right.
We could be there with you and your cereal and your coffee, PFF Daily, every single morning.
I was wondering what you're – okay. Yeah.
What?
It was just strained metaphor.
So, can we get our team on that Nespresso sponsorship? Like, they could sponsor the Daily. You wake up with your Nespresso and your Daily.
Yeah. I mean, look, I use Nespresso. I'll take
just
a
thinking out
sponsorship.
loud. I'd also like Under Armour because I wear this shirt every 2 shows.
Yeah.
Kelly was scrolling through our shows the other day. She's like, man, you wear that green, like these. I wear this like every 3 shows.
Yeah. Even though it's got a giant hole in it.
There's not. You can. No, it's a tiny hole. You can't see it.
What do you mean you can't see it? I just pointed out from across the desk. How invisible do you think it is?
I might need to retire this one. Anyway, Zeke. It was like he responded to the criticism of Tony Pollard's more explosive. Tony Pollard's better. Tony Pollard right now is our highest graded running back. But Zeke ran hard is the point. I thought he did a really nice job.
This is a game where Carolina's offensive line could be exposed. It hasn't been so far. They've done a pretty good job papering over the cracks, even though like the combination of Cam Irving, Dennis Daly, Pat Elflein are bad. Those guys have not been massively exposed so far as a problem. But Dallas has got some pass rushers. I know they're still dealing without DeMarcus Lawrence, but when they have Micah Parsons rushing the passer, that guy has such freakish athleticism that if he faces an offensive lineman that isn't good, he's going to kill that guy. Like, he wrecked Storm Norton. And when he was facing the Eagles, he got some pressure against Lane Johnson, who's an all-pro right tackle. But when he was on the other side and he was going up against Andre Dillard, he was beating him easily. So, whatever about if you have a really good tackle, like Taylor Moton might be able to deal with Micah Parsons fine and not be a problem. But if you're Dallas and you have that kind of player, you should shift him the other side and say, all right, Cam Irving, let's see what you have against a guy with this kind of burst and strength and violence in his pass rush.
It will be interesting to see what Dallas does when DeMarcus Lawrence is back off injured reserve. Lawrence generally rushes from the side. Parsons has been on. Of course, you could move them around. Osa Odighizuwa's played some pretty good football, rookie third rounder. They have Randy Gregory. So it will be interesting to see how they deploy those pieces. Is Parsons? What does that third down package look like? Because Parsons could play traditional linebacker and then be an absolute weapon as a pass rusher. Just a good all-around football player, Parsons, our highest-graded rookie overall so far.
There's some real value in guys that will beat bad mismatches. Really. Like, there are certain players that can only do that, and it sort of gets used as a criticism. It's like, well, he only gets his pressure against bad players. Like, yeah, but that's not an invaluable thing.
I think it's really valuable.
And in particular, if you have, like, if it's a guarantee, if you know that this guy is going to dominate inferior competition, put him there every single snap. Like, he's going to win that matchup all the time. And the guy who might be better equipped to beat better players might not. Like, it's not necessarily that the better player will beat the bad player to the same degree. Like, he might actually be better situated going against the better players, and then you have this one massive mismatch that you can just deploy all game long on a bad player.
I know who you're thinking about. With the 2013 Robert Quinn season, Adrian Claiborne's had games like this, but if you can have like a 6 to 10 pressure game against a tackle that could completely demoralize the entire offense, the opposing offense. It can be that impactful in a one-game setting. You just have to know maybe you're not going to get that when you face a Lane Johnson or a Joe Thomas or whatever in the next week. I'm buying the Dallas hype here. I think Dallas comes out of this one 3-1 with their only loss, a last-second field goal to the Bucs, and we're talking about the Cowboys in the Super Bowl conversation again. I think Dak is playing well. I think there are some hidden plays in there that people might be not seeing or whatever. The fumble in the end zone he could have avoided, didn't feel pressure all that well. There are some negative plays in there that Dak needs to cut out, but overall he's throwing the ball extremely well. And I've been impressed with Dallas's defense, as you said, coming back. Trayvon Diggs maybe becoming a star before our eyes. So I'm expecting some Carolina regression. But, man, I'm looking forward to seeing Darnold in a bit more of a test here.
Yeah, my priors for Carolina this season dictate that I have to say they'll lose this game. But I actually do think they're better than I thought they were, in particular on defense. So I think they're going to cover. So I'm going back to the well with the underdog covering but losing.
Okay, I'll take Dallas covering and winning. J.C. Horn out for the season again. They bring in C.J. Henderson. I want to see how long that cornerback group can hold up. Tough test here with Dallas. Cleveland Browns at the Minnesota Vikings. The Browns are favored by 2 here on the road against the Vikings. Vikes coming off their first win, beating the Seattle Seahawks. Browns are 2-1. They beat up on they beat the Texans. They beat up on the Bears last week, and they lost the heartbreaker to the Kansas City Chiefs. So far, it looks like the Browns are who we thought they were.
This is kind of a wild line, though, given that. Like, the Browns are 2-1. They're only lost against Kansas City. And in a game they had won and threw away themselves. Like, Kansas City beat the Browns less than the Browns beat the Browns in that game, I would say. And that's their only loss, going up against a Minnesota Vikings team that was almost 0-3, but for beating up on Seattle. Like, and yet the line is only 2?
You're Minnesota pessimist. Like, Minnesota's so close to 3-0. Right?
Are they?
Yeah.
I mean, how close are they?
A heartbreaker in overtime against the Bengals.
The Bengals, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then the Arizona game
Uh-huh.
was tight and back and forth and crazy. And they missed a field goal to win it.
Yeah,
They're literally, Dalvin Cook fumbled in overtime against the Bengals, and they missed a field goal that was so close, the Minnesota, what's his face, you thought it went in.
The Minnesota what's his face?
The radio guy.
Paul Allen.
Paul Allen. Yeah. Cheered that it went in. In Paul Allen's head, Minnesota's 2-1. That's how close they are.
So the Browns are the number 7 team on PFF ELO rankings right now. Minnesota's 20. The Browns are number 2 on offense. Minnesota's 10. The difference on defense is 5-18. I'm just surprised that this isn't a bigger line in Cleveland's favor.
The Vikings are good. They're going to, because, man, the more I watch Justin Jefferson, he is just so good. He is so good. And when you have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, the top-heavy statement that I made about Seattle probably applies here, because if you lose one of those guys, which they did last year for a little bit, you lose Jefferson or Thielen, it definitely hurts the offense. But, man, when they are out there, they're going to move the ball. They're going to create offense. Kirk is as accurate as any quarterback in the NFL right now, Cousins, grading well. They're going to move the ball. My question is, as bad as the Bears were offensively, the Browns' defensive front deserves credit. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney looked explosive. We know what Myles Garrett did. Malik McDowell up there, JOK running around and blitzing and the whole thing. Is this the game where the Vikings' offensive line, from a pass blocking standpoint, comes back to bite against the Browns' front?
Yes. The Vikings have Rashad Hill at left tackle, who's not good, and he's been hurt during the week. So if he plays, it's a problem. If he doesn't play, Christian Darrisaw plays, and that's probably a problem as well. Not because Christian Darrisaw, is a bad prospect or any of the things we talked about. How much do they really love him, given they traded back?
Is he healthy now?
But because he's a rookie, and this will be his first NFL action, he's going up against Myles Garrett. Like, however good you expect him to be in future, this is probably a losing proposition for him. That line is still a major issue, and they're going up against a defensive front that just laid waste to the Chicago Bears offense.
Garrett's also going to face Ezra Cleveland, Oli Udoh, the 2 guards. I mean, the Browns do a nice job of deploying Garrett all over the place.
Oli Udoh has been pretty good, by the way.
He has.
By the way, he was sitting on this team all last year, and they persisted with Drew Samia and Dakota Dozier all season long, despite both those guys getting their ass handed to them on a weekly basis.
He's been pretty good. Small sample so far. But anyway, is this a shootout, man? The Browns haven't thrown the ball a ton, but they run the ball extremely well. They could put points on the board.
The most interesting thing about this game is that it's essentially they're the same system. Like, this is the Vikings and then Stefanski's offense, which came from the Vikings, and it's the same thing. Like, in theory, these are the 2 same offenses, with Kirk Cousins versus Baker Mayfield, and it's like for like.
I was going to put in my notes the Spider-Man emoji thing, Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
Right? Because, we made the point, has Baker settled in to Kirk, to being Kirk-ish, which isn't a knock. It's just you're at the Kirk Cousins inflection point, aren't you, right now? The Browns have to figure out if they're going to re-sign Baker.
There are some very clear similarities between Baker and Kirk Cousins right now, but there are also some massive differences. Like, Baker has that, teammates love him. Moxie, the guy will run 60 yards to celebrate with his running back as he scampers into the end zone thing. And then, versus Kirk.
Completely different skill sets, too.
And also that
as far as, like, Baker's got a cannon, Kirk just kind of touch thrower,
And also Baker, he might not be great under pressure, but at least you know that if somebody lays a hand on him, he might escape it rather than just fall over.
I don't know. You're downplaying Kirk. Dude's playing well.
He's playing well, but he is the least escapable human being on the face of the earth.
True. Baker is like every other time.
Yes.
Sometimes can't make.
It's not always good.
I mean,
it doesn't always go well, but at least like there's something depressing about watching a quarterback where you know that the second he's touched in the pocket, he's going down. Like it's not the play is over. Whereas Baker Mayfield, the second he's touched, it could go anywhere from like, okay, he's going to get sacked to he's going to spin out of it, throw an interception to he's going to spin out of it, run, or throw a bomb deep down the field. There's a wide spectrum of things that can still happen on the play even after somebody grabs a fistful of his jersey.
Is this a game where Odell Beckham goes 10, 12 catches against the Vikings corners? Odell Beckham, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashard Higgins. The Browns have done a really good job of spreading the ball around. They've got like 9 guys with over 50 receiving yards or whatever that number is. Like, they're spreading the ball a ton. Tight ends, backs, receivers. I wonder if this is a receiver-driven game against the way the Vikings corners are playing.
Those corners. So Rashad Breeland is currently giving up a pass rating of 157. Patrick Peterson, 158, which is perfect. He is 0.1 away from giving up a perfect passer rating this season. It's 157.9.
Incredible.
Which is actually, where do you even get that 10th percentage point? Whatever.
A nice 40-yard touchdown will get you there, probably.
Mackenzie Alexander, 118.8. The only guy that isn't getting ripped to pieces is Cameron Dancer, who can't get on the field, who's been targeted 5 times because he's in the doghouse.
Looking for a trade.
Yeah. Rightly so, right? The dude, he should be playing because the people ahead of him are not giving you a reason to keep him on the bench. And the reasons he's being given for being kept on the bench is like you don't play special teams and you're not a cover for like whatever. He's probably your best corner. Put him out there.
The matchup on the Browns side is good, though, too. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen versus Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome playing pretty well as a rookie. We'll see. The Browns like to play that that quarters-y shell where they give away the underneath stuff. That is what the Vikings did to pick apart the Seahawks last week. So we'll see if the Browns get a little bit more aggressive, try to force the Vikings to throw the ball down the field a little bit more.
Potentially no Dalvin Cook again, so Alexander Madison season.
Again.
Should rack him up 25 carries.
It's a good running
trucking.
back. All right, what do you like here? Cleveland by how much?
Yeah, Cleveland and covering. I'll take it. I'll leave it at that.
Minnesota wins this game.
Get out of it.
Minnesota wins and obviously covers the 2. Indianapolis at the Dolphins. Dolphins favored by 2. Jacoby Brissett, revenge game against the Colts. The Colts are they're looking at 0-4 here.
Potentially.
They have one of the easiest schedules remaining, but it doesn't matter if you're not good.
True.
And the Colts, I think as much as we talk about Wentz and look, the offensive line has been horrible. Wentz holds the ball, half a second longer than Phillip Rivers, so it, exacerbates that a little bit. They have not covered. The defense has been bad.
Defense has been bad, and now they're down Kwity Paye, probably questionable with a hamstring injury. But a hamstring injury, they took him out of the game immediately, put him out of the game, and a week to come back from that feels optimistic. So I would say probably not playing. That the defense has been bad. The offensive line, the thing about that offensive line is they haven't had the healthy 5 yet. Like on paper, their starting 5 is a really good offensive line, maybe the best in the NFL. They have yet to have that starting 5 there, and all we've seen so far is that when their starting 5 is great, their depth is not. And the second they have to turn to the depth, they're in trouble. And they've had to turn to the depth every single game so far this season. It's also going to be interesting to see how mobile Carson Wentz is after like the hobbled version of busted ankles he was on last week, because that was kind of painful to watch. And then obviously as a lifelong Jacoby Brissett fan since last week, I will be intrigued to see how he plays.
You can't wait to see. See if he throws the ball down the field a little bit more. Jalen Waddle, the rookie receiver, had 12 catches for 56 yards.
Yeah, at least 8 of which were all the same play.
Little shallow crosses.
Uh-huh.
It was. He had the negative yard catch too in the end zone for the safety, which hurt.
Which somebody tried to blame him for. That was pretty harsh.
No, that was just slow and bad.
Yeah.
The Colts have allowed pressure. So again, it's the quarterback holds the ball, that invites pressure. But they've allowed quick pressure in under 2.5 seconds. 33% of passing plays. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. Now, 2nd worst in the NFL is the Dolphins at 34%. So both of these teams are allowing a high percentage of pressure, but also a high percentage of quick pressure.
But the difference being, like, for the Dolphins, is because their entire offensive line is bad. For the Colts, it's because they have one train wreck of a guy at each game, and it tends to switch between left or right. But there's one guy getting his ass kicked every week. For Miami, that one guy is all five of them.
Yeah. So, the Colts, they're still banged up. Quentin Nelson, he's not going to play, right? He's out.
Questionable.
He's questionable? I thought almost certainly he was out for a few weeks, right, with that injury. I believe a high ankle sprain. Is he going to?
Well, this is a man that came back from having a bone taken out of his foot in 5 weeks and looked fine.
Yeah.
Can't question the man's recoverability.
Braden Smith also questionable. So, like, if Braden Smith plays, they've got everybody back. But,
and Nelson, yeah.
Like, and, Eric Fisher's
the two questionable players.
And if Braden Smith and Nelson are back, that's their starting five. But Fisher off to a slow start, coming off of his injury. Mark Lewinsky got Aaron Donald, so his grade's in the 40s. Julian Davenport, you don't want him to play, but as of now, he'll probably be playing right tackle if Braden Smith can't go. Who do you like in this one? I think the Dolphins cornerbacks have a chance to really lock down these Colts receivers.
Look, when in doubt, you go with the better quarterback. And as we all know, Jacoby Brissett is clearly the better quarterback here.
Oh, man. I don't like it. I'm going Miami, too.
I do think that, look, if the Colts, if they don't have their starting five offensive line healthy and Carson Wentz is still hobbling around on two busted ankles, they're in trouble on offense. And their defense has been giving up big plays. I do like Miami.
All right. We're both taking Miami to cover the two. Detroit at Chicago. Bears are favored by 3. Only 3?
Wow.
Against
what do you
the
mean
Lions.
only 3? Did you see their game last week?
Yeah.
If they were favored to score 3 points, it's a result from last week.
But the Lions defense, they got if Marquise Brown catches the ball, this defense gets thrashed again.
Yeah. Because they're the Ravens,
They're
not the
feisty.
Bears.
Oh, I don't know. So Bears are definitely, they're going to look better offensively, right?
Are they still giving the
Matt
line?
Nagy, first play, under center,
Are
play
they-
action, bootleg, guaranteed.
Are they still giving the line that all 3 quarterbacks are in the
I haven't
reckoning
even
to start?
checked on that. Like, that can't be real at this point in the week, right?
I mean, they probably haven't told anybody anything different, but I'm sure that was never actually. I hope it was never actually a serious thing.
Andy Dalton was limited in Wednesday's practice. You want Justin Fields to probably play against this Lions defense.
Yeah, if Justin Fields plays and it looks the same as last week, you need to just put him in bubble wrap and forget this season. If Justin Fields plays and plays well, I'm not actually sure that tells you anything other than you need a team as bad as Detroit for him to be viable. So it makes next week a difficult conversation because suddenly the defensive fronts get nasty again.
It might sound weird because the Lions did allow Lamar to have about 8.5 seconds in the pocket on that 4th and 19, but Lions' pass rushing grade is 7th in the NFL so far. Like they're
not terrible, but they're
doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, they're not terrible, but if you can't block this defensive front for at least a viable period of time, then you've no business playing at this point. Like I think the game plan for Justin Fields was bad last week, but I don't think the problem was that they weren't moving him enough in the pocket or they were running the wrong protections. It was just they were completely overmatched and they didn't try and offset it by giving him anywhere to go with the ball. So Justin Fields, who we've talked about before, will skew towards holding onto the ball longer than he should anyway. In addition to that, didn't have any quick outlets to go somewhere when his players are getting beaten, and all of them were getting beaten pretty quickly and pretty regularly. So he was just on a hiding to nothing. He just didn't have any shot in that game. Now, if that's the same, if that happens in this game, he shouldn't make it beyond halftime because there's just no purpose to it.
We talk about attacking players all the time as far as game planning goes. Bobby Price, 6'4", cornerback, 205 pounds. It was an undrafted free agent in 2020. Did not play a defensive snap last year. Is now starting corner for the Lions. He's played all right so far through 2 games, but I'd have some stuff for Allen Robinson to match up with Bobby Price and go, attack matchups as much as possible. When you have a Justin Fields game, everybody can see whatever they want to see. If you want to create a Matt Nagy narrative, you write the article, it's all Matt Nagy's fault. If you were of the minds that Justin Fields held the ball too long and it was going to be detrimental in the NFL, you had enough fodder too. Again, all of those things are true. The Bears need to figure out how to make all those little pieces better. What's good for Justin Fields? How do we use our playmakers? How do we protect our offensive line? How do we tap into Justin Fields' skill set? Like, all of those answers, they need to have them this week, right now, or else it doesn't get any easier for Fields.
I mean, I think the thing that escapes everybody last week is that the game flow torpedoed so much of what they were trying to do because it was just a constant run of 3 and outs. Like, They got nothing going. They were so overmatched that there was never a time to see anything happening. Like, bam, bam, 3rd and 12, 3 and out, done. Well, what the hell did we get out of that drive? Like, what was working, what wasn't? Well, nothing worked, so what do you change? I don't know. Like, you run one bootleg, and there's a dude waiting for him and pens him back in the pocket, and it's like a 5-yard loss. 3rd and 15, now we're 3 and out again, punted away. Like, we're on a bootleg again? Or, like, what do we learn from that?
How are people allowed to create narratives on TV when they're like, they ran one bootleg in the first half? Like, yeah, they dropped back 9 times.
Right.
So 11% of the time, which is double the NFL average, they ran a bootleg.
And it should be 11%, or it should be double the NFL average because you're talking about trying to lean into a guy like Justin Fields. But, yeah, like, how much do you want that to happen based off 9 dropbacks? Because remember, it's not, when you're talking about these small numbers, it isn't just the number of dropbacks. It's that because you're going 3 and out every single time, these are bad 3rd downs. They're not 3rd downs where you can do, some weird RPO stuff that's only going to get you 4 yards because it's 3rd and 12.
Right.
Like, those things go out the window at that point. So you're facing an incredibly small number of plays, which are almost all bad situations because nothing is functioning.
People who think that the rollout offense is going to save things, I mean, again, that is literally a handful of plays.
Right. But so, like, I mean, in my brain, I was like, the one thing I would do in this game is run a lot more quick game stuff with Justin Fields. But even you look at the numbers, and they ran quick game 8 out of 30 dropbacks despite the bad situation. So they actually ran a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Well,
it just didn't have time to function.
There was a play action pass where he had an over route, so you'd say, run more play action. Well, he had one, he missed it.
Right.
When they ran quick game, he threw it right to JOK. Now, JOK made a great play for the Browns. He was probably in a spot where he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And then he had an underneath route where he just missed. I mean, again, Fields was as much to blame when they called decent plays as well.
I don't think that the game plan was good, but I think almost every analysis of it is massively overselling how bad a job it was when you look at the circumstances involved in the whole thing. Like, they were just completely overmatched, and it showed up in every single area. Like, people were legitimately claiming that was a deliberately bad game plan so that Matt Nagy could be like, see, I told you he wasn't ready. Now let me play the guy I want to play. Like, that's asinine as an analysis of what that's an analysis of somebody that wasn't actually watching what was happening, but was just watching how bad it looked.
Let me pose this question to you. Let's dig into this for a second. I know we're tight on time, but I was talking to Dr. Eager off air, and I think Eric and I think other people want to like Justin Fields and want to put the blame on the coach.
Of course.
So he posed the question, were we wrong about Trubisky? Right? So there are, as good as the PFF grade is at isolating quarterback play, there's obviously some dependency on the play
Justin
caller.
Fields sucked week 1. We're blaming Matt Nagy, therefore we need to reassess whether Trubisky was good.
That's crazy to me.
Yes.
Right? Now I agree that if Nagy's not good and Trubisky graded poorly and you put Trubisky with Sean McVay, maybe Trubisky would have played better, right?
Sure.
There is some dependency there. But I'm still of the mind, until proven otherwise, that Matt Nagy won a ton of football games despite Mitchell Trubisky, who missed far more throws than anyone else, put the ball in harm's way more than anyone else, and that they won despite Mitchell, and that Nagy actually deserves some level of credit for that. I'm not ready to undo that after one game of Justin Fields.
Well, particularly because, again, I think anybody asking that, or anybody saying this was a deliberately bad game plan, or saying this was like obnoxiously naive or incompetent as a game plan, is just not actually looking at the game and how it was unfolding around him. There are definitely things that they could have done better, but you can't just say, well, this is obvious. None of this was working, so you changed this thing. Like, that's what you did wrong. Because you're dealing with this in 3 plays at a time and then punt and reassess. Like, what did you learn from the 3 and out where all 3 plays went to hell? Nothing. Like, you don't know what to change. You don't know which button fixes the 7 things that went wrong in the last 3 plays. It isn't this easy, simple, like, well, that's clearly where you went wrong. And that was so obvious that he must be trying to throw the game. Like, that's just insane.
Everything was bad.
Yes, everything.
Game
now the
plan,
question
line, fields,
is everything bad again against the Lions?
I think they'll look better. I will pretend last week didn't happen, and I will go with my same take on Justin Fields. There will be some ugly that looked like last week. He'll take a few sacks. He'll hold the ball too long sometimes. He will also, this week, make a few spectacular plays that will remind you that he is very talented, an excellent thrower of the football. It's tough to be an excellent thrower of the football when you're not completely confident in everything you're seeing right now. I think we see that so far in Fields. I think he'll be better this week. All that said, I've made the statement that Jared Goff is tank-proof, and this is one of those games where I think Goff plays well enough against a Bears defense that's been up and down here. So I think I'm going to take the Lions to cover the 3 and to win on the road.
Oh, damn it. You're going to do that.
In Chicago. You could do it too. You could be on the bandwagon. Come on.
I was going to take the Lions to win. I think they've played
teams
tougher.
We're both taking the Lions to win, yeah.
All right. I think they played teams tougher than anybody expected them to.
Feisty kneecap biters is what they are. Go Lions.
They are unfortunately the 32nd ranked team in PFF's ELO ranking, so it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good on paper.
Also the 32nd ranked defense, which doesn't help.
Dan Campbell is elevating them. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah?
32nd in talent. Dan Campbell is elevating them so far. New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. 7.5 for the Saints here. Jameis Coaster's high.
The Jameis Coaster is high.
It's coming back down. They're back in the dome, right?
I was going to ask, are they like back home now?
They're at least there. I think they're playing in the dome. Way to know this stuff.
Yeah.
Are the Saints at home this week? Just hold tight, live YouTube crowd.
Just chill. There'll be a search engine replying in a minute. That's how that works.
Doesn't give me a good answer.
No? That's a shame. They're going to be back home at this point. It's October.
Anyway, they're at home. I'm pretty sure they're at home. 7.5. Is that too much for the Jameis Coaster?
Look, you said it last week that you should never bet on Jameis. It's too wild.
Eric was convincing me the other thing. It's like the value matches what people last saw. So there's like
he was convinced that like it's the sharp thing to do is to bet on Jameis.
Yeah.
No, I'm not having it.
No, because who the heck wants to watch that? You don't know. Like,
I just don't want.
Here's my question.
I don't want my money riding on Jameis Winston in any direction.
I haven't tweeted it yet, but like my big question is when he makes this throw this week, what's the result? Put your predictions in the YouTube chat. When Jameis makes a throw that looks like this,
when he's throwing one from falling over horizontally, is it being caught by a defender, an attacker, or nobody?
Yeah,
or the official?
Completed, interception, incomplete, first row of the stands. Like, where's it going? Want to know in the chat where that pass is going when Jameis throws it this week. I can't wait. Giants are another team, though, man. They're close to winning. They're close to winning some games. Are they better than we think? Daniel Jones is playing some good football. Is he going to keep it up? He's got the most completions 10-plus yards down the field.
Honestly, that's the thing to watch in this game is how Daniel Jones does against the Saints defense, which is good. And they've got players back. Like, Daniel Jones is playing – they're in a really weird spot, the Giants, because they're probably not going to be very good this season. And it turns out it's not just the offensive line. There's some other problems there as well. But they might come out of this year with a kind of a clean house type of results sheet, where it's like, this is bad enough that we need to drop kick everybody out of this building and start over. But with a quarterback that took a big step forward, has, number 6 overall former pedigree, and has taken a fairly consistent step ahead in every year of his career. And I don't know what they do with that, because he still probably won't be good enough where you're 100% convinced that he's the guy to lead a franchise forward if you're pressing the reset button anyway. But does he become like a bridge quarterback to somebody that they draft in the first round? Like, what happens to Daniel Jones at that point? Because he's playing really quite good right now.
It's his second straight year of playing better than his production.
Yes, which is the other problem going against him, right? Is even if he continues at this level and the stats stay the same, he's not going to get the credit for it.
So, but then you're either sitting on a hidden asset where he has developed, and when you do have a better offensive line, things will work out. I will also say I think we've seen flashes of the Giants' offseason strategy of building the basketball team of playmakers. I think we've seen elements of that paying off with Darius Slayton when he catches the ball down the field being a deep threat, and Galladay making some plays, and Sterling Shepard making some plays. I think Shepard's banged up, right? And Kadarius Toney might see some time here.
That needs to happen, by the way, because Kadarius Toney, when you watch his tape, is freaking dynamic, and he's just not a part of the offense at the moment.
I mean, that's the other part, too.
He had 2 catches.
Jason Garrett doesn't have a history of elevating offense.
He had 2 catches last week that were like nothing plays. And on each one, he made like an incredible move immediately after catching it, made a dude miss and gained like an extra couple of yards. Now, neither of them went far, but like, how can you look at that and go
dynamism? You're seeing it.
How can you look at that and be like, I mean, I don't really care about getting this guy the ball. Whatever. If he gets it, he gets it. If not, we'll move on. But that dude should be getting force-fed some carries or some touches because he's a weapon with the ball in his hands.
All of their receivers are questionable, by the way. I mean, it's Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. They're all questionable. And this is the other thing working against Daniel Jones. He'd had another fumble in the pocket. I mean, that's in his 2+ years here. Those are the things that he needs to clean up.
He's not perfect. He's got some weaknesses, but he is developing in a consistent way. Like, if you were of the Josh Allen is displaying clear evidence of getting better year on year camp, you kind of have to be of the same opinion of Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not saying there's a Josh Allen leap in here. Like, it's we're just waiting for him to play at a 90 overall grade level for an entire year. Maybe Daniel Jones doesn't have that in him. But if you drafted this guy in the top 10 and he's getting better every single season, and it's not like he's ever had the best help around him.
Here's what you're seeing, though. He's got the third highest grade under pressure this year, passing grade, 80.1. Those are the things I liked about him, right? And my thing was he will make these plays under pressure. When you hit the high end of volatility, you'll have this because he's willing to do it. But you need the pass catchers, you need the defense. I mean, you need these other things to put it all together.
He has a higher passer rating under pressure right now that he does kept clean.
So those are the things that scream regression.
Sure.
And you said he's going to grade over 80 this year. I think we bet lunch on it. Mm-hmm. So far, you're doing a good job. I think he'll come back down to earth. Saints, I like the Saints in this one. 7.5, is that too much? Giants playing a lot of teams tight,
nope.
Close.
Saints win. They roll.
You think it's the big return and emotion and
mm-hmm.
So the Saints dud in week 2. So when we come out of this, they had a dud in week 2. Do we just chalk it up to the weirdness of
8
that
guys,
week for them?
8 coaches not being there, being on the road,
So
missing
just blame
players,
COVID.
and a really good Carolina defense.
I'll take the Giants to cover, Saints to win.
Huh. People don't like that.
I want to see the Saints defensive backs, though. Again, they're doing a good job on the back end against these Giants receivers if they play. We'll see who plays for the Giants. WFT, Washington football team at the Atlanta Falcons. The football team's favored by 1 against the Falcons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair.
The football team hasn't stopped anybody. These are the 2 teams. I was looking through all the teams.
But it's Atlanta.
What?
But it's Atlanta.
Yeah, I know. These are the 2. I was looking through the stats. These are the 2 teams that are worst on however you slice it. 10+ yard throws, 20+ yard. I mean, they're the worst defensively so far. The Falcons haven't completed a pass, 20+ yards in the air. So something's got to give here. This is when I'm going Atlanta here. Like,
what?
There's no
Why?
way. Matt Ryan is not this bad.
Isn't he?
He's not this bad.
He's old.
I know. I'm just anti-Cliff stuff.
Even despite a lot of evidence.
Even with
Cliff.
evidence. I'm anti-Cliff evidence.
Not even Matt Ryan evidence, just like other people evidence.
No, I'm not.
Quarterbacks hit the cliff all the time. Drive right over
I try to push back because I think people use it too much. Like, Brady threw a pick 6, there's the cliff. Like, no, you idiot, it's a throw. There is a lot of evidence that Ben Roethlisberger is driving towards
Is currently
a big slope.
Ben Roethlisberger is currently in the front seat of the bus, right? Hands of the wheel as he hurdles vertically towards the cliff bottom, right? He's like 50 feet over the edge at this point, just flying merrily towards the ocean, the rocks at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like he's over the cliff. There's no coming back from this at this point.
And through 3 games, I think Matt Ryan just like drove through the roads closed sign.
Okay.
Like, don't drive through here.
He's only encroaching upon the cliff face. He's not there yet.
Yeah, because there's evidence. The arm doesn't look great. The footwork and response to pressure from Matt Ryan, especially last week against the Giants, you saw it was pretty poor. Back foot throws and in various things like that. All that said, in the dome, I think Matt Ryan throws the ball a little bit better.
Okay.
And I think you cannot hold Calvin Ridley and the guy.
Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts, my goodness. Their first round pick. They can't hold both of these guys down.
Remember when, Matt Ryan hasn't played inside yet.
He did it first week. Eagles.
Oh, yeah, right. It was at home.
And they were dinking and dunking like crazy against the Eagles' zone defense. I think they'll attack more this week.
Yeah, I just think the Falcons are pretty bad. I think they're wasting Kyle Pitts, who was a potential game-changing weapon for them on offense. I also think that Washington is not as bad as they've looked so far. Like, if the narrative on Washington was, hey, they're going to be worse this season because they're facing better teams, once they face a bad team, they go back to looking really good. So this is the bad team. They're going to go back to looking good. Heineke's not going to throw the ball to defenders as much as he did last week.
Agree with that, yeah.
And make some plays. And the defense is still getting a decent amount of pressure. They just can't stop anybody on the back end. So if they're getting pressure against Matt Ryan, that's all she wrote. That's all I need to see.
I think it's a shootout. I think it's a Heineke versus Matt Ryan shootout this week. Matt Ryan turns back the clock. I'll take the Falcons. Falcons home underdogs, man. I don't know. I'm going to take that. The football team, I think I mentioned it on yesterday's show, another interesting dynamic. Their pass rush is getting pressure. I mean, they're winning, right? They have one of the highest pass rush grades, bottom 4 coverage grade. That is the different dynamic from last year. I do think eventually those converge more as the season goes. I think if they continue to win up front, even though they're not getting home, they're not getting sacks as much, but if they continue to win, that will help the coverage unit, and they will.
Their defense has got some weird numbers right now. Like in terms of they have missed the fewest amount of tackles in the NFL, but they're also like abysmal on third downs. They can't stop. Like they've got some absolutely bizarre statistics that shouldn't be able to coexist in the same data set.
And again, they're going to play a difficult run of QBs. And maybe you looked at the schedule and said Matt Ryan's one of them, but through 3 weeks he's
not.
He's not. But I think he gets back on track. I'll take the Falcons. You'll take the football team. 2 more games. Houston Texans at the Buffalo Bills, Sam. Bills are favored by 16.
16.
What do you think Warren Moon and Houston does at Buffalo here?
Warren Moon.
Think they can hold a 30-point lead?
Somebody tweeted me. Damn it! I should have kept his name. Warren Moon and Tom Brady's careers overlapped. Warren Moon was drafted in 1978 or something ridiculous.
When did Moon? He finished in what, 2000?
Yeah. He
was with Kansas City, I know, in 99. Was he there again in 2000?
I think so.
That's great. Everybody's doing like the old Brady stories this week. Tom Carr in New England beat. He found like Tom Brady's first apartment and like his roommates from the year 2000 and all this stuff. He bought an apartment from Ty Law, like as a 6th round QB4. Brady's like, oh yeah, I'll buy the apartment. I'll be here. So they're interviewing his old teammates, how they played Tecmo Bowl and this whole thing. Back when Warren Moon was playing.
Yeah.
Back in 2000. Yeah, what a career.
Guy drafted in 1978 had his career overlap with Tom Brady.
I don't know how much I want to spend on this game. The Bills defense has been fantastic. They have not given up a pass of 20-plus yards in the air. So just like the Falcons haven't completed one, the Bills are the only team to not allow one. Now, they faced Big Ben. They faced Tua/Jacoby Brissett, and then they faced Taylor Heineke last week. So, take it for whatever it's worth. But the Bills' defense is playing really well. They got Davis Mills coming in. First road start for the rookie.
So, all right, last week.
Is 16 enough?
Yeah, last week was depressing. the Texans playing on Thursday night. Davis Mills, like, I don't want any part of this game. I don't need to see Davis Mills. I have no interest in what he can achieve at the next level. Davis Mills did enough in that game that I'm now at least vaguely interested in watching him play another game of football. How's that?
He made like 4 good throws.
Which is way more than I would have given him credit for going into that game.
It's all about expectations.
Yes. So he has at least outperformed my expectations to the point where I am vaguely intrigued in seeing him play another game, which is not something I would have anticipated.
In Buffalo against the Bills?
Yeah. I mean, I expected to go worse than it did last time, but still, I'm here for it.
I'm taking the Bills to cover, man. I mean,
cover 16?
Yes. I don't think it's enough.
What do you think the line should be?
19. I don't know.
19.
More than 16. It's
All
not
right.
enough. I'll take Buffalo. You get the cover 2 defense that Josh Allen's just going to sit in the pocket and pick apart. I mean, maybe that's the one thing, right? That's the strategy we always talk about with Allen, sit in zone and make him make plays.
There's a brave 2% of people that are putting cash on the Houston money line.
This would be the beached whale game, dead whale?
Exploding whale. It wouldn't, though, because that doesn't work for that metaphor. It's the game, though, where every year there's a game where there's literally not a single shred of evidence that says Team X can win, and they do.
Buffalo was the team. Was it Allen's rookie year? They were 0-2. Vikings were 2-0.
Yeah.
And they went in 17-point dogs or something like that.
Murdered them.
Crushed the Vikings.
With that was Josh Allen like leaping all the way over Anthony Barr or something, right? Yeah, like this is a game where there's nothing you could point to that says Houston should win this game. And every year that happens every now and again.
So that'd be an exploding whale.
No, the exploding whale is like a once great Leviathan falling on hard times, languishing up on the beach, building up toxic fumes until eventually somebody pokes it with a stick and the whole thing explodes and destroys that poor unfortunate one last time. It goes down in one final blaze of glory.
Oh, so the Texans have never been high enough.
Correct.
Okay. The Falcons a couple years ago when they were the...
Yes.
Okay. It's a good metaphor.
It is, and you're butchering it.
That's what I do.
I'm
It's
just
saying,
metaphors. Don't play with fire. You don't understand how this works. Stay in your lane, Steve.
Adrian's saying that we love to hate on the Texans. I apologize. We don't love to hate on the Texans. I don't think they have a great football roster. They are also giving up the highest percentage of quick pressure, and the Bills' pass rush has been really good these last couple of years. One other thing, in the Bill Belichick book, the book about Belichick and Brady and all that stuff, there's a little bit about Bill O'Brien, how he was hoping to be the next Patriots coach. I don't like to give I'm giving all this secondhand stuff.
You spoilering the book?
No, ESPN spoiled it. They gave all of these bullet points on their website.
Okay.
To
So
sell the book.
you haven't read this thing yet?
No, the book's not out until October.
I thought you might have got an advance copy. You're not media?
No, I'm getting all these emails for advanced copies of books I want no part of. I don't know how I got on that email list. Like you're on the word of the day list. I don't want the advanced copy. This one would be interesting, I guess.
So you do want the advance copy. Who is it? It's Seth Wickersham, right?
Yes.
Seth probably listens. Seth, send Steve a copy.
Yeah, well,
we're already plugging it.
Belichick's already denying things that are in the book because it's all secondhand discussion. So, some questionable. Who knows? But Bill O'Brien apparently said he wanted to get fired in Houston, which, I don't know which point he said he wanted to get fired, but maybe somewhere around the DeAndre Hopkins trade or some of the other moves that were made along the way. Bill probably listens to the show too. I don't know. I am always amazed at the number of people who either like reference something that we say.
Yeah,
and tell
it's
us
not so much
listen.
the number; it's the specific individuals who you're like, oh,
the types of people
that person listens.
The various types of people who listen. Like Meme Guy, Meme Guy listens, and people in front offices. It's all over the place.
Yeah,
love you, Meme Guy. He had a good one on you, right, the other day. Rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Was that a direct quote?
Yeah.
You said that? Sometimes I miss your great quotes when I'm just trying to do quick research here.
I think the other problem the Texans have working against them in this game, by the way, is that whatever you think about David Culley, he's made a couple of massive errors in the course of game flow. And if you're 16-point underdogs trying desperately to steal an edge here or there, you can't be making the wrong call on fourth down and those kinds of things.
No, they're definitely going to view it the other way and be like, man, we gotta pin Josh Allen deep.
Yeah, we got to tighten it up.
Got to punt.
Take it away.
Shorten the game
Trust your
here.
defense.
Got to trust the defense.
I'm just saying that, like, he's making some decisions that are objectively incorrect at the moment, and that's not going to help.
Bills take another step closer to what we thought they were going to be and a step further away from their week 1 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, covering the 16. Let's wrap it up here. Is this the last game?
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans at the New York Jets. Titans could be without. Are there 16? Who's on bye? Is there a bye this week?
I don't know. Did I miss a game?
There's 15 games here. Just make sure you didn't miss anything.
Uh-oh.
There is Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. Both receivers might not play here in this game for the Titans. So
Pittsburgh, Green Bay. We haven't done that, right?
Oh,
That's what we're
dude.
missing.
I trusted you. We have 7 minutes now
There we go. It's in.
for both of those. So we won't spend as much time on Tennessee and the Jets. I will say the Jets, another team on paper where the secondary shouldn't be all that good. They've only given up 11 passes on 10-plus yard throws. It's pretty decent. Robert Saleh's fingerprints already on that defense. At some point, I think Zach Wilson will stop throwing 2 and 3 interceptions per game, or 4
That would be
interceptions
nice.
per game. He's shown flashes. I think he could have a little bit of success against this Tennessee defense. The Tennessee defense also finally got pressure against Carson Wentz. I think they'll get pressure a little bit against the Jets.
All the Jets receivers are out. If they don't activate Denzel Mims for this game, that dude might as well just like retire because he's not playing.
Mims watch here.
He's another. There's a bunch of these guys for whom they're obviously like a better player than people ahead of them, but they don't play special teams. They're just not like Denzel Mims. The two things they are saying as reasons why he's not playing: he doesn't play special teams, and he doesn't know all of the wide receiver positions, so he can't be like the primary backup to everything.
Right. But
Which just, I mean, I get it, but it feels not useful. This is like Dantzler, right? Okay, maybe he doesn't cover everything and he doesn't play special teams, but on the other hand, have you considered that he might be your best corner?
right.
Like Denzel Mims doesn't play special teams
Special
and can't
teams
cover
is 11% of the game
right.
at best.
Doesn't play special teams and can't cover all 3 wide receiver positions. On the other hand, have you considered that the one time you threw him the ball this year was a 40-yard play? Like, maybe he can be useful in spite of those things.
Yeah, the 40-yard play tends to offset the rest of those things. Tennessee Titans, if it's no Julio Jones and no A.J. Brown, there's a lot more Derrick Henry. There's a lot more, Westbrook Akina and Chester Rogers and Racey McMath and
That's what I'm here
Cameron
for.
Batson. This is where I think the top-heavy nature of their roster could come back to bite a little bit. I think they'll win. They'll be fine. Tannehill's still throwing the ball well. He's got the most big-time throws that have been dropped, so they actually haven't shown up from a production standpoint. He's had a couple quirky interceptions in there. Picked up a lot of yards on the ground, key first downs and everything. Tannehill's playing well again. But I think the Jets can keep this one close.
Yes.
I'll predict Wilson doesn't turn the ball over like crazy and the Jets cover and the Tennessee Titans win. Another one of those.
Yeah, I'm in on that as well.
Jets keep it close here. And we agree. All right, the Packers are at home taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They are.
Favored by 6.5.
In our specifically designed last game of the show.
Yeah, we wanted to finish with a bang, right? We start high and it's like a
What the hell are you doing?
anyway, let's go. What are you looking for in this game? Steelers and Packers. Steelers in danger of going to 1-3 here.
Yeah.
Are they cooked?
Do they have a pass rush? Like, where did it go last week? Okay, There were some plays in there where they were winning and the ball was out quickly, but that doesn't explain the complete disappearance of that pass rush absent TJ Watt. Is he really that important to this group? Or can the other 3 guys that should be showing up actually form some kind of pressure on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers?
I mean, I made the point the other day about, from a Bengals perspective, Cameron Hayward gets quick pressure,
Right.
and Joe Burrow makes the throw because the receiver's open. That's also from a Pittsburgh perspective here. A team that has been so dependent on their pass rush historically, and they made moves this offseason. They made moves along the lines of, doesn't matter who we throw back there. We can put it together in the back end, in the secondary, and make it work. Yeah, they traded for Ahkello Witherspoon before the season. They like James Pierre, he's done some nice things. But an old Joe Hayden, James Pierre, Cameron Sutton, Minka Fitzpatrick does have one of the worst grades in the NFL right now. I always feel like I need to explain that because he's made some nice flash plays. He has been put into a do-it-all safety role this season. and he's just been out of position a lot. You know, whether it's whiffing on Josh Allen twice in the open field or getting beat deep when the ball was overthrown. A couple other passes have gone over his head that just haven't been either completed or he's giving up first downs, or he's been out of position in plays where you're like, oh, here's this wide open receiver. But when you go back and look at the tape, it's like, well, that's Minka's coverage, right? So there are all these hidden plays where he's been put into this challenging role, and it hasn't been for the benefit of the defense.
I think people underestimate how hard it is to be a good do-it-all safety. Like, a lot of people get put into that position, and it tends to look, it's a little bit like linebacker, right? Where it's easy to look good as a linebacker because the plays you make are obvious and the plays you don't make are a little bit easier to hide. So there's a play, who was the center? Devin White got like blocked off the field on a screen this past week, right? Nobody would notice that play. It's a play that only shows up when you're like, hey, look at the job this center does. And, oh, who's that linebacker getting driven 15 yards off the field? Oh, it's Devin White. Maybe that's why he doesn't have the PFF grade that everybody wants him to. Like, linebackers are that position. And I think do-it-all safeties are like that position as well. You notice the splash plays they make because they're flying around playing multiple different positions, but you don't notice the 10 times they're badly out of position because they're trying to kind of guess and getting it wrong. And I think it's the number of guys that can do that and not have the bad plays is really small. That's why Troy Polamalu was such a freak for his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you. So that's what's happening. So my point is the Steelers, again, number 3 pass rush grade in the NFL. They're getting pressured. They're not covering well. Number 3, third worst coverage grade in the NFL. I think Aaron Rodgers has a field day here in this particular game, especially if the Steelers continue to play zone-heavy scheme with a 4-man rush.
The Steelers all of a sudden are seeing how thin their pass rush actually is. When you take TJ Watt out of it, Stephon Tuitt is injured, and that's, I think, a really big miss for them that they haven't had him so far this season. Now it's just Cam Hayward and Irving, who you signed off, Melvin Ingram rather, who you signed off the street like just before the season. So those guys are now carrying your pass rush, and if you don't have the league's best pass rush, the secondary starts to show its cracks, where they would have been there last year, except you were pressuring the opposing quarterback 45% of the time. So, yeah, if they can't manufacture a pass rush against Green Bay, it could be a tough day for them.
Steelers, worst, least efficient running attack in the NFL.
Yeah.
So Najee did not solve those problems. So a lot of issues in Pittsburgh, including Big Ben aging, Rodgers.
On his way towards the cliff, the rocks at the bottom of the cliff.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan at least slows down on his way to the cliff this week. I think Ben.
Well, there's no slowing down.
He's there.
You're in the air.
He's in the air.
You're just reaching terminal velocity, and then you're smashing into the rocks.
I'll take Green Bay to cover the 6.5 here.
Yeah, same. They win and cover.
So one more week of this, and I think the Packers are who we thought they were. It's just one blip in week 1 that we blame Jeopardy on.
Yeah. Pittsburgh currently has the 32nd ranked offense using PFF ELO.
They're 32nd?
That's dead ass last is the technical term for that.
It kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
Watching them. It's funny. Every year, ELO has something where I think they had the Steelers like 27th or something before the season. I'm like, come on, ELO. Come on, math. There's no way they're that bad. And then I get proven wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they should have been 27th. And here they are at 32nd.
Oh, yeah. They got worse.
Maybe ELO was off. Too high. Anyway. There was once upon a time, I think 2009, these two teams in Green Bay had an incredible shootout. Roethlisberger versus Rodgers. Not this week.
No.
Packers roll. That's it. All the week 4 games in the books. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back here early Monday morning, trying to hit record right at 7 a.m. So everybody wake up early or stay up all night, whatever you got to do. Be there 7 a.m. as we go head-to-head with Good Morning Football on Monday morning.
We've been moving into a little new podcast studio soon as well.
Yes.
And then we won't have to wake anybody else up. We'll be able to do it ourselves.
It's a good studio. I don't think I need to wear pants in the studio. It's just waist up.
I think you do.
Big enough. No, okay. We'll all wear pants. We'll have fun. Different studio, though. We could do some cool stuff. Anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the games. We'll see you Monday.